Chapter 29-34. After discussing business with Ji Tianqing, left emissary Jin took his leave. He burrowed into the ground and soon disappeared. Ji Tianqing did not stay any longer and returned to Qianxue County. On the way back, he was still thinking. Left emissary Jin's style was a reflection of the Bloody Blade sect. They were cautious, secretive, and decisive. This was the style of the Evil Path sect. 100 breaths later, Ji Tianqing was still 2,000 miles away from the South City Gate. He passed by a majestic mountain range and flew over a valley. All of a sudden, a dazzling lightning sword light lit up in the valley and attacked like lightning. The lightning sword was 100 meters long and contained 12 types of law power. It was incomparably violent, and its divine might was vast. In an instant, the lightning sword was in front of Ji Tianqing. He did not panic and punched out a dark golden fist light with his right hand. Kaboom! The huge golden fist shadow hit the sword of lightning with a deafening roar. The sword light and the fist shadow collapsed at the same time, splashing out divine light fragments. The surging energy spread in all directions. The two mountains nearby also shook violently from the impact and cracked. Ji Tianqing was about to release his divine sense to find the person who attacked him. At that moment, a 1,000-foot-long blood dragon shadow suddenly appeared on the mountain in front of him and attacked him. The mountain peak behind him also lit up with dazzling divine light. 9 pitch-black blades of death attacked him. Ji Tianqing was attacked from the front and back. He immediately determined that there were at least 3 divine lords ambushing him. However, he did not panic. He slashed out a huge golden blade with his left hand and slashed at the blood dragon in front of him. He held the sword of burial of heaven in his right hand and slashed out 12 sword lights to meet the blades of death. Kaboom! With a loud sound, the huge golden blade shattered the blood dragon shadow. Bam! 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 At the same time, the 12 sword lights slashed at the blades of death and shattered them. The attacks of the 3 divine lord powerhouses were all resolved by Ji Tianqing. He held a sword spell in his left hand and the sword of burial of heaven in his right hand. He stood in the night sky with an indifferent look on his face. His divine sense covered a radius of 3,000 miles. Only at this time did he discover that this area indeed had 3 divine lord powerhouses. One of them was hiding in the valley, while the other 2 were on the 2 mountain peaks. They were all middle-level god monarchs of the 6th degree realm and their divine power auras were thick and vigorous. Ji Tianqing frowned and thought to himself, when I passed by this place before, I used my divine sense to investigate, but I didn't find anyone lying in ambush here. Why are there 3 divine lords trying to assassinate me on the way back to the city? From the looks of it, they had been hiding in the county city. After following me out of the city, they chose to kill me here. In such a short period of time, they shouldn't have been able to set up a large formation. Just as this thought flashed through his mind, he saw a bloody light blooming in the valley. Shwa! In the next instant, the blood-red light spread out in all directions, covering a radius of 300 miles. In a short period of time, an oval-shaped blood-red light screen sealed off the entire area. Ji Tianqing was within the blood-red light screen and was immediately suppressed by the power of the formation. His entire body's blood and qi were boiling and surging as though it was about to explode. Therefore, he could only circulate his divine power and secret techniques to suppress the surging blood and qi. After 2 breaths, his blood and qi calmed down. At this time, the 3 divine lords appeared one after another. Shwa! 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 The divine lord who flew out of the valley was a dark old man wearing a blood-red robe. He didn't look very impressive. The divine lord who was hiding in the mountain peak in front was a burly man in golden armor with a head full of purple hair and a valiant aura. The divine lord who flew out from the mountain peak behind was a mysterious man wearing a black robe and a bronze mask. The 3 divine lords came to the night sky and formed a triangular formation, surrounding Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing sized them up coldly as he thought to himself, left emissary Jin just reminded me to be careful of blood sword sect's revenge and ambush. I didn't expect that in the blink of an eye, I would be ambushed. The blood sword sect is actually so impatient. That doesn't seem right. The blood sword sect should know that just 3 mid-god lords might not be able to kill me. Could it be that they still have a backup plan? These 3 middle-level divine lords are just cannon fodder in the vanguard. With this in mind, Ji Tianqing contemptuously sneered, do the scoundrels of the blood sword sect only know how to use such despicable sneak attacks? Don't think that you can fool this lord just because you've changed your appearance. The golden-armored man and the dark old man were clearly taken aback by his words. The two frowned as they cast doubtful glances at the mysterious man. The mysterious man didn't react. He only secretly used his arts to draw in the blood barrier's energy and weaken Ji Tianqing's fighting strength. Seeing this, Ji Tianqing frowned as he thought to himself, from the reactions of those two, it seems a little strange. Could it be that they aren't from the blood sword sect? But besides the blood sword sect, who else would send 3 mid-god lords to kill me? Ji Tianqing inwardly speculated. At this time, the blood barrier's power doubled and its color turned deep purple. Ji Tianqing used his divine sense to investigate and discovered that this wasn't a monarch-grade divine array. Instead, it was a monarch-grade high-grade divine artifact that had temporarily formed a law domain. It seemed to be a law related to bloodlines. Within this domain, one's blood energy would be drawn in and suppressed. Thus, he pretended that his blood energy was boiling, his face turning red and his aura becoming chaotic. His fighting strength immediately fell by 30% and he became somewhat weak, unable to bear the burden. Just who are you people? Why are you trying to kill this lord here? Ji Tianqing clutched his chest, his expression pained and indignant as he asked. Seeing that he couldn't bear the suppression of the law domain, the 3 mid-god lords relaxed and became much more confident. The black-robed man wearing the bronze mask coldly shouted in a low and hoarse voice, "Brat, don't ask what you shouldn't ask. In any case, you will undoubtedly die tonight. Because you provoked someone you shouldn't have and took something you shouldn't have." Ji Tianqing frowned and asked in confusion, "Who did I provoke? What did I take?" The black-robed man coldly shouted, "Don't play dumb with this lord. What about the 50,000 sets of heavenly god equipment? Hand them over immediately and this lord can leave you with an intact corpse." Hearing these 2 sentences, Ji Tianqing was stunned. He never expected that the other party was actually here for the 50,000 sets of heavenly god equipment. This proved that they were indeed not from the blood sword sect. If they weren't from the blood sword sect, then which force were they from? Ji Tianqing silently analyzed. The only people who knew about the 50,000 sets of heavenly god equipment were the Qingshan City Lord, the Black Mermaid King, Qi Tianlong, and Ning Qingang. Of course, there was also Duan Mu'er. Thinking of Duan Mu'er, Ji Tianqing's eyes flashed with a cold light. Could it be him? If it's him, then he should know that I've already given the heavenly god equipment to Ning Qingang. Chapter 29:35. This morning. When Ji Tianqing handed the 50,000 sets of heaven god equipment to Ning Qingang, Duan Mu'er was also present. If Duan Mu'er wanted those equipment, there was no reason for him to send people to kill him here. Unless Duan Mu'er was just using this as an excuse. His real motive was to get rid of him. Thinking of this, Ji Tianqing was a little uncertain. Duan Mu'er hates me, but he's just a useless hedonistic heir. He shouldn't be so scheming as to send people to kill me tonight. The identities of these 3 Sur gods should have nothing to do with Duan Mu'er. If it had nothing to do with Duan Mu'er, the Qi and Ning families wouldn't betray him. Thus, the answer was obvious. It should have something to do with the Qingshan City Lord and Princess Tianfeng. Ji Tianqing looked at the black-robed man and pretended to be confused as he asked, 50,000 sets of heaven god equipment. What do you mean? Where did I get so many heaven god equipment? Also, as a Sir God, what use do I have for heaven god equipment? The black-robed man didn't seem to have much patience as he shouted angrily, "Little bastard, don't play dumb with me. Before we took action, we already investigated what happened in Qingshan City and Black Shark Island. You killed the Qingshan City Lord, tricked the Black Shark King, and took the 50,000 sets of heaven god equipment for yourself. Do you think you've done it secretly? I don't want to talk nonsense with you. Hand over the goods now. Otherwise, I'll suck your blood dry and make you suffer in hell." Hearing this, Ji Tianqing was basically sure. The factions that these three Sir Gods belonged to must have something to do with the Qingshan City Lord. When he had obtained the 50,000 sets of heaven god equipment, Bai Long had asked him why the Qingshan City Lord was forging so many sets of equipment. At that time, he didn't think much about it and explained to Bai Long that these sets of heaven god equipment could be traded as currency. Just think of it as hoarding assets. Now, Ji Tianqing finally understood. No wonder the Qingshan City Lord forged the 50,000 sets of heaven god equipment. It's most likely for a certain faction. After I took the equipment, that faction sent experts to investigate and finally tracked me down here. Since he understood the reason, Ji Tianqing didn't pretend anymore. He channeled his divine power and performed his divine abilities and secret techniques, immediately calming down his surging blood essence. His flushed face and body quickly returned to normal. He looked at the black-robed man with a mocking expression and sneered, "Since you've already investigated clearly, there's nothing more to say. The thing you want is indeed in my hands. As long as you tell me who you're working for, I'll consider returning it to you." The black-robed man furrowed his brows and scolded in a disdainful tone, "Little bastard, you are really arrogant and ignorant. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. The items in your hands were made by the Qingshan City Lord for that noble. A lowly nobody like you actually dared to snatch food from the tiger's mouth and go against that noble? You're courting death. No one will be able to save you, no matter where you go." The brawny man in golden armor had also lost his patience. He said impatiently, "Bai Jun, why are you wasting your time on this little brat? Let's just kill him and plunder his spatial ring. Won't that complete the mission?" The dark-skinned old man also nodded in agreement. With a bloodthirsty grin, he said, "This brat's blood essence is very abundant and very pure. I'm going to suck him dry." The black-robed man no longer hesitated. He waved his hand and ordered, "Kill him." As he spoke, his hands reached out from his sleeves and attacked Ji Tianqing like eagle claws. It was only then that Ji Tianqing saw that the black-robed man's hands were like some kind of monster's claws and were covered in pitch-black scales. His 10 fingers were also exceptionally long and sharp. They were strangely curved and suffused with the cold aura of death. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The black-robed man waved his hands, and hundreds of death blades shot out and enveloped Ji Tianqing. The brawny man in golden armor also drew a broadsword. With a roar, he leaped high and slashed out a blood-colored dragon saber light that was 10,000 feet long. The dark-skinned old man used a pair of blood-colored thin swords and stabbed out more than 300 times in an instant. Immediately, more than 300 five-colored sword lights rained down on Ji Tianqing, carrying the violent power of laws. In an instant, the overwhelming light of divine techniques drowned out Ji Tianqing's figure. Within the blood-colored light barrier, an area of 150 miles was illuminated by the five-colored divine light, revealing everything. The violent sword intent and divine power aura formed a huge storm that wreaked havoc. Ji Tianqing did not hold back and directly used his trump card to deal with it with all his strength. Celestial Dragon Tyrant Body. His body bloomed with golden light and instantly turned into a giant that was 1,000 feet tall. Not only was his body as huge as a mountain, but his body also bloomed with golden light and divine dragon shadows. Even his defense and combat strength instantly increased by 6 times, reaching the level of a high-level divine lord. Dragon Elephant Divine Fist. He struck out a dragon elephant shadow with his left hand, shattering the sword lights and blood-colored dragon saber light that filled the sky. He waved the burial of heaven in his right hand and stabbed out a pitch-black giant sword toward the black-robed man. Burial of heaven. With his angry roar, the burial of heaven also erupted with all its strength, cooperating with him to use this sword that could bury heaven and earth. The 1,000-foot-long black sword light was mysterious and cold to the extreme. It contained supreme divine power, as if death had descended and reincarnation had reappeared. Compared to the black-robed man's blades of death, it was of a much higher level and much more powerful. Boom! Crack! With a loud bang, the hundreds of blades of death collapsed. The burial of heaven slashed the black-robed man and sent him flying. His left shoulder was cut off, and blood spurted out. The cold aura of death immediately entered his body, freezing half of his body and solidifying his blood. Plop! The black-robed man flew back 50 miles and crashed into a mountain peak, sending dust into the air. Ji Tianqing used two more techniques, one for the golden-armored man and the other for the tanned elder. Bam! 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 Boom! Boom! Another series of loud bangs. The golden-armored man's legs were cut off by the sword light. He howled miserably as he fell into the valley, his strength greatly reduced. The tanned elder was hit by more than 100 swords. His soft armor was pierced into a sieve, and more than a dozen bloody holes appeared on his chest and back. He was also sent flying by Ji Tianqing. He crashed into the mountain peak in front of him, blood spurting out of his mouth and nose. The two sides had only exchanged a few moves, and the outcome was decided in less than 30 seconds. The three middle-level divine lords were no match for Ji Tianqing even when they worked together. They were all severely injured. Such an outcome left the three divine lords aghast, and their souls nearly left their bodies. The black-robed man acted as if he had seen a ghost. He desperately activated his divine artifact and released a powerful domain power. It was a 100-foot-wide blood-red millstone buried deep in the valley. Under his control, the millstone spun faster and its power reached the maximum. However, Ji Tianqing was not affected at all. He charged forward with unparalleled ferocity. A moment later, the golden-armored man was the first to be killed. His divine body was cut into several pieces by the burial of heaven. His godhead had just escaped when it was cut into pieces. Immediately after, the tanned elder was also killed by Ji Tianqing. His divine body also collapsed, and his godhead shattered. The black-robed man was still alive, but he was intimidated by Ji Tianqing's valiant divine might. He no longer had any will to fight. He put away the blood-red millstone as fast as he could and fled toward Sky Snow County City in a panic. Chapter 29:36. As he fled, the black-robed man was still thinking about a question. Previously, when he used the Blood Nirvana Divine Disc and used the Blood Nirvana Domain, he had suppressed Qin Lai. His qi and blood had flowed backward, and his divine power had become chaotic. His combat strength had greatly weakened. But why had Ji Tianqing recovered so quickly? He had even used a forbidden secret technique to push the power of the Blood Nirvana Divine Disc to the limit. Why was it still useless? Ji Tianqing's control of his own qi and blood had surpassed a superior-grade monarch divine artifact. How could this young fellow be so powerful to such an extent? It didn't make sense. The black-robed man really wanted to know. What secret technique did Ji Tianqing use? Or did he have a special divine artifact? Otherwise, how could he ignore the power of the Blood Nirvana Divine Disc? Unfortunately, the black-robed man didn't have the chance to figure it out. He had just flown out of the valley and fled 100 miles when Ji Tianqing caught up. Heaven capturing dragon palm. Ji Tianqing growled and stretched out his left hand like a dragon claw, striking out with 36 types of laws. In an instant, the divine power of heaven and earth within a radius of 10,000 miles was absorbed. A golden dragon claw appeared above the black-robed man's head and wrapped around his body. Boom! The golden dragon claw clenched and captured the black-robed man. It was so fast that he didn't even have time to teleport. The supreme divine power of the dragon claw made him unable to struggle or move. Whoosh! The golden dragon claw captured the black-robed man and flew back to Ji Tianqing. With a thought, Ji Tianqing's golden dragon claw crushed the black-robed man into meat paste. His divine body was destroyed, leaving only a five-colored divine spark. The black-robed man was terrified and instinctively roared, "Stop! You can't kill me. I'm from the Imperial City, you can't kill me. Otherwise, you'll really anger that benefactor, and you'll definitely die without a complete corpse." At death's door, the black-robed man had no other way to save his life. He could only bring up the benefactor behind him. Someone from the Imperial City again? Ji Tianqing frowned. He had a bad premonition. When the black-robed man saw this reaction, he thought that there was hope for survival. He quickly advised, as the saying goes, it's better to squash enmity than to keep it alive. Moreover, that nobleman is very powerful. You can't afford to offend him. Let me give you a piece of advice. It's best if you let me go and return the 50,000 sets of heavenly god equipment. In return, I will try my best to plead for that noble to forgive you. Ji Tianqing was non-committal. He looked at him expressionlessly and asked, "Who is this noble person you're talking about?" The black-robed man fell silent. After hesitating for a moment, he said in a low voice, "Brother, don't ask this question anymore. I advise you not to know." Ji Tianqing sneered, 50,000 sets of heavenly god equipment is enough to equip an army of tens of thousands. That nobleman is secretly accumulating equipment and building an army. It seems like he's planning something big." The black-robed man's soul grew increasingly nervous as he hurriedly interrupted, "Stop talking. You'll get yourself killed." Ha ha ha. Ji Tianqing laughed contemptuously, "If you don't tell me that person's identity, you'll be killed right now." The black-robed man was speechless. After weighing the pros and cons for a long time, he finally made up his mind and asked, "If I tell you the identity of that noble person, will you let me live?" Ha ha ha, what do you think? Ji Tianqing sneered. The black-robed man was furious. He roared, "Since you won't let me live, I won't tell you even if I die. I won't betray that noble person." Ji Tianqing sneered again, "It's fine if you don't tell me. Anyway, I'll refine your godhead and strip your soul of its memories. I'll naturally know the information I want to know." The black-robed man was stunned. He didn't have anything else that could threaten Ji Tianqing. Life and death were all in Ji Tianqing's hands. His heart was dead, and he was in complete despair. "Young man, you'll definitely regret the choice you made tonight. You'll pay the most tragic price for your ignorance and arrogance. One day, you'll understand that there are many people in this world that we can't afford to offend." The black-robed man's godhead transmitted the last two sentences. The tone was gloomy and sorrowful. Ji Tianqing smiled and said, "Unfortunately, I'm one of those people that you can't afford to offend." As soon as he finished speaking, the golden dragon claw smashed down. Crack! A crisp cracking sound was heard. The godhead shattered on the spot. At this point, the three monarchs were dead. Ji Tianqing put away the godhead fragments and picked up the black-robed man's interspatial ring. He quickly disappeared into the night. Around 20 breaths later. In the direction of the Sky Snow County City, 100 city guards riding on divine birds appeared. They arrived near the shattered valley. This group of city guards surrounded the valley and carefully inspected the battlefield, looking for traces. In the battle just now, the shockwave spread over 2,000 li. The dazzling light of the divine technique was especially dazzling in the night. Even the Sky Snow County City, which was 2,000 li away, could see it clearly. The battlefield was too close to the Sky Snow County city. Many people saw that there were experts fighting in the southern outskirts of the city. This made the people very uneasy and worried. Therefore, the supervisor of the city guards at the Monarch God realm personally led 100 city guards to check the situation. The result was obvious. The city guards investigated for an hour, but they didn't find anything. They only knew that there had been a great battle between Monarch God experts. After all, the mountains and land within a few hundred li had been turned into ruins. Other than that, they didn't find anything. When Ji Tianqing returned to the pine tree courtyard in the Ning mansion, it was already night time. After returning to his residence, he went straight into the secret room. After sitting down cross-legged, he took out 3 interspatial rings and checked the items inside. These belonged to the 3 monarchs just now. There were countless cultivation resources, divine weapons and equipment, elixirs, talismans and many other random things inside. Ji Tianqing roughly sorted through the items. He had obtained more than 50 million divine stones and more than 400 divine crystals. There were more than 100,000 divine pills, talismans and divine weapons. There were also some special divine items and treasures whose value was hard to estimate. All in all, the wealth of these 3 middle monarchs could be considered rich. However, they were obviously lackeys working for someone and not the leader of a large force. The total wealth of the 3 monarchs added together was only about 1 billion. Ji Tianqing was slightly disappointed. Of course, it wasn't because the wealth was too little. It was because he didn't find anything related to their identities in the interspatial rings. Therefore, he took out the black-robed man's divine spark fragment and started to refine it. Time passed silently. 6 hours later, dawn arrived. Ji Tianqing absorbed the memories of the black-robed man's divine soul and understood the whole story. He. No wonder this person kept saying that he was a nobleman of the imperial city. As I expected, it was another prince. Without a doubt. The nobleman that the 3 monarchs were loyal to was the current second prince. Like the third prince, he was also a strong contender for the throne. Of course, this prince was also an ambitious schemer. Chapter 2937. Ji Tianqing learned a lot from the memories of the black-robed man. The king of the blood-flame divine kingdom had 6 sons and daughters. 2 of them were princesses and 4 princes. The eldest prince, who was the oldest and most mature, had passed away long ago. Now, the second prince, the third prince, and the 5th prince were all qualified to fight for the throne. Among the 3 princes, the second prince was not the strongest, but he was the best at scheming and commanding. The third prince always gave people the impression that he was a gentle and modest gentleman. As a result, the third prince was praised for his kindness and benevolence, as well as his ability and integrity. Many nobles and ministers were inclined to support the third prince. As for the 5th prince, he kept a low profile and was not well known. The second prince felt that after the death of the first prince, he was the eldest son. According to the rules and traditions, the throne had to be passed down to the eldest son. Therefore, he had the greatest chance of succeeding the throne, and it was also the most justifiable choice. Unfortunately, neither the monarch or the important ministers of the court adhered to this rule and tradition. The king and the ministers were all thinking about which prince was better and more suitable to rule the divine kingdom. This made the second prince very depressed. He had to secretly bribe the ministers to promote the traditional rule of choosing the eldest son. Although many ministers and nobles were willing to accept this idea, it was not effective. It did not shake the king's will. The second prince could only rope in his henchmen and secretly build up his forces. From the lords of the city to the lords of the counties and the ministers, he tried his best to bribe and rope them in. Furthermore, he had even privately hired elite soldiers and raised many experts in secret. He had at least 100,000 soldiers. The lord of the Qingshan city, Yuan Chengkong, was the absolute confidant of Princess Tianfeng. 10 years ago, Princess Tianfeng had been roped in by the second prince. For the sake of the second prince's fight for the throne, she was at his beck and call and did her best. 3 years ago, Princess Tianfeng received a secret letter from the second prince. She knew that the second prince wanted to recruit 50,000 elite soldiers and secretly raise them in the Tianfeng county. If they went north, they could attack the Sunset Seas and make a name for themselves. If they went south, they could use this as a bargaining chip and blackmail during the fight for the throne. When Princess Tianfeng heard this, she gladly expressed her support. They also expressed their loyalty and were willing to provide 50,000 sets of heavenly god equipment. The second prince praised her greatly and promised that he would promote Princess Tianfeng to be an important minister of the country after he ascended the throne. Infanta Tianfeng was also looking forward to it. She said that she would sacrifice her life for the second prince. However, Princess Jianfeng's finances and assets were insufficient, and she was unable to allocate 10 billion worth of resources within 3 years. Thus, this matter fell on the head of the Qingshan city lord. In the eyes of Princess Tianfeng, the lord of Qingshan city was a money tree with the dark light cave. The Qingshan city lord did not let him down. Within 3 years, he had secretly gathered 50,000 sets of heavenly god equipment. However, the city lord did not know that the 50,000 sets of heavenly god equipment were prepared for the second prince. He thought that Princess Tianfeng was plotting something, so he kept the 50,000 sets of equipment. When Princess Tianfeng sends a message, he will deliver it to her personally. Princess Tianfeng tried to ask the second prince about it. The second prince said that he wasn't in a hurry. He hadn't recruited 50,000 elite soldiers yet, and it might take a few more years before he could do so. Princess Tianfeng then informed the Qingshan city lord that the equipment would only be delivered a few years later. However, who would have thought that Ji Tianqing would enter the Qingshan city at this time? He had become a consecrator of the Qi clan, helped the Qi clan to seize the Dark Light Cave, and caused a series of troubles. The Qingshan city lord had no choice but to ask the Black Mermaid King for help. He asked the Black Mermaid King to assassinate Ji Tianqing. The Black Mermaid King was greedy by nature. He asked for an exorbitant price. He didn't lack cultivation resources or ores, but he wasn't good at smithing. He asked for 30,000 sets of heavenly god equipment. The Qingshan city lord thought about it and agreed to this condition. As long as he could kill Ji Tianqing, he was willing to pay 30,000 sets of heavenly god equipment. Anyway, there were still a few years before the goods were delivered. It wouldn't be too late for him to gather the 30,000 sets of equipment after he seized the Dark Light Cave. However, things didn't go as planned. No one would have thought that Ji Tianqing would win in the end. Not only did the Qingshan city lord lose his life, but he also paid 50,000 sets of equipment, 50,000 pearls, and the 100 poison crocodile dragon pearl. After this incident, Princess Tianfeng was furious. The Qingshan city lord was his trusted aide and also his money tree. Now that this tree was cut down by Ji Tianqing, how could he let Ji Tianqing go? More importantly, the 50,000 sets of heavenly god equipment were nowhere to be found. Princess Tianfeng had promised the second prince, but now she was going to break her promise. Most importantly, Qi Tianlong and Ning Qingang had entered the imperial city and were conferred the title of Viscount by the king. The second prince also knew about this and asked Princess Tianfeng about it. Princess Tianfeng didn't dare to hide anything and told him the truth. After the second prince knew the truth, he was furious. He immediately sent 3 of his followers to the Qingshan city to secretly investigate the whereabouts of the 50,000 sets of equipment. The 3 guests were of course the 3 Sur gods who had been killed that night. After knowing the ins and outs of the matter, Ji Tianqing came to a sudden realization, and the corners of his mouth curled up into a cold smile. I see. No wonder I couldn't figure out how the Qingshan city lord could have 50,000 sets of equipment. I didn't expect that this guy was working for the second prince. Now that I've killed the Qingshan city lord, Princess Tianfeng, and the 3 followers, and taken away 50,000 sets of heavenly god equipment, I've offended the second prince. The second prince will definitely know that Ning Qingang went to deal with the 50,000 sets of heavenly god equipment. I wonder if the second prince will hold a grudge against the Nings because of this. When he thought of this, Ji Tianqing's frown quickly disappeared. The Nings have always been the third prince's supporters. They have long been the second prince's eyesore, so they don't care about this. Thinking of this, Ji Tianqing didn't feel guilty about the Nings anymore. He continued to comb through the black-robed man's divine soul memory. Soon, he learned more about the situation. The second prince was good at forming cliques. Not only did he rope in many governors, princesses, lords, and ministers, but he also had close ties with the major sections. For example, the Evil Blood Palace, one of the 6 major sects, had close ties with him. There were also 2 other sects, who seemed to be cooperating with him. In addition to these top sects, the second prince had also bribed 9 second-rate sects to become his lackeys and accomplices. From what he knew so far, of the 3 princes, the second prince seemed to be the most powerful. Ji Tianqing rubbed his chin and muttered in a playful tone, the second prince has close ties with the major sects. Then could he be the backer of the Blood Sword sect? Currently, his most direct and strongest opponent was the Blood Sword sect. What was certain was that the third prince had nothing to do with the Blood Sword sect. Given the second prince's style, it was very likely that he was the mastermind. However, Ji Tianqing couldn't find any evidence even after searching through the black-robed followers' divine soul memories. It seemed that the backer of the Blood Sword sect wasn't the second prince. Chapter 29:38. The backing of the Blood Sword sect was neither the third prince nor the second prince. The answer was obvious. The most low-key fifth prince. Other than this answer, Ji Tianqing couldn't think of anyone else. After all, the king and the ministers didn't need the loyalty and help of the Blood Sword sect. Only the 3 princes fighting for the throne needed the help of the various factions. None of these princes are clean. Even the most low-key 5th prince is secretly developing his forces. The king is also pitiful. The 3 sons fighting for the throne seem to be a competition on the surface, waiting for his decision. But in reality, the 3 princes have already formed factions and are secretly fighting. They even dragged the 6 great sects into it. Whoever wins in the end will be the new king. The will and decision of the current king is not important. Ji Tianqing muttered expressionlessly. Various thoughts flashed through his mind as he analyzed the pros and cons. Now, I've ruined the second prince's plans and offended the 5th prince. Only the 3rd prince's side is still harmonious. If nothing unexpected happens, I might have to walk this path to the end. The Qi family had already joined the 3rd prince's side, and the Ning family was the 3rd prince's in-laws. He was the Qi family's guardian and now the Ning family. No matter how he looked at it, the world would think of him as the 3rd prince's man. It was difficult for him to tear off this label. Ji Tianqing closed his eyes and pondered for an hour. It was already dawn outside. He collected his thoughts, took out the 9 Heavens 10 Absolutes pagoda, and entered it. He meditated in the distorted spacetime, took out the Godhead fragments of the other 2 guests, and continued to refine them. Of course, he also extracted the memories of the 2 and compared them with the memories of the black-robed guest. Not only could he confirm their authenticity, but he could also fill in the gaps. Time quickly passed, and a day passed. Ji Tianqing refined the memories of the golden-armored man and the dark-skinned old man. The facts proved that the black-robed guest's memories were correct, and he knew the most inside information. He was the leader of the 3, and his status was higher. After confirming that there were no problems, Ji Tianqing began to refine the power of the Godhead and the many laws. The 3 mercenaries were veteran divine lords who had been famous for many years. They had grasped more than 50 laws. Ji Tianqing chose 20 of them, which he could seize and refine. This time, not only did he have to refine 20 types of laws, but he also had to devour the power of 3 godheads. He also had to consolidate his divine Tao foundation and cultivate a few divine abilities and secret arts. They were all primordial divine abilities that he had mastered in the past, unique skills that had been lost for many years. After all, he was already a divine lord powerhouse now. He could now use more than half of the thousands of divine abilities and ultimate skills he had mastered 1,000 years ago. Following this, he would definitely face an even more severe situation. There would be encirclement and assassination from many sides. The more he practiced, the more confident he would be and the more trump cards he had. Unknowingly, a year had passed. Ji Tianqing had successfully refined 20 types of laws and mastered 4 divine abilities and supreme skills. Presently, the number of laws he grasped had reached 150. Many 8th-stage realm upper-level god lords were merely at this level. His strength improved again, closing in on 3rd-level divine lord. After finishing his cultivation, Ji Tianqing went to visit Yunyao, Ji Ku, and Wushuang. The 3 people were currently in closed-door cultivation, rapidly consuming large amounts of origin stones and divine pills, continuously increasing their strength. What made him pleasantly surprised was that his daughter Wushuang's strength already reached the 6th level of the celestial deity realm. Yunyao and Ji Ku also reached the 8th level of the celestial deity realm and were currently marching towards the 9th level. Perhaps, they could also break through to the Divine Lord realm if they cultivated in closed-door cultivation for another 8 to 10 years. Such a shocking advancement speed was already extremely rare in the divine world. Ji Tianqing was very gratified. He took out a large number of origin stones from the 5 elements world and placed them beside them. Only after doing this did he leave the 9 heavens 10 absolutes pagoda. Returning to the secret chamber, it was late at night outside again. He spent a year in the divine pagoda, but only 7 days had passed in the outside world. 7 days have passed, those 50,000 sets of celestial deity equipment. I wonder if Ning Qingang has finished dealing with them. Ning Siyuan went out to escort the goods, he should be back too, right? These thoughts flashed through his mind. He got up and left the secret chamber. The silver-armored guard guarding the secret chamber's entrance hurriedly bowed in salute. Greetings, young Master Tianqing. During the few days you were in closed-door cultivation, a secret letter was delivered to the residents outside, please open it personally. Also, eldest miss has returned to the residence and came to look for you last night. After saying that, the silver-armored guard held a jade slip with both hands and handed it to Ji Tianqing. Got it. Ji Tianqing nodded calmly and reached out to take the jade slip. The silver-armored guard retreated. Ji Tianqing was not in a hurry to look at the jade slip. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he muttered, this Ning Siyuan came to look for me as soon as she returned to the residence. What's the matter? But why does she always look for me in the middle of the night? If this happens too many times, won't the Ning family misunderstand? If Qi Huanji finds out, how sad will he be? Ji Tianqing pondered if he should find an opportunity to let Yunyao and Ji Ku show their faces. At least let Ning Siyuan know that he was a man with a family. Moreover, both of his wives were peerless beauties that could topple the world. However, Ji Tianqing was only thinking about it. He wouldn't do it. It would be too deliberate, childish, and a little narcissistic. Dismissing these messy thoughts, he read the contents of the jade slip with his divine sense. This secret letter was sent by left envoy Jin, and the contents were relatively simple. 2 days ago, the Blood Blade sect began their operation. An elder led 8 attendants and 50 elite experts to ambush one of the Blood Sword sect's branches. They achieved a great victory that night, killing more than 30 disciples and 6 attendants. They also killed more than 300 vassals of the Blood Sword sect and destroyed the branch, seizing several billion worth of resources. Next, the Blood Blade sect would carry out similar operations and destroy the various branches of the Blood Sword sect one by one. Ji Tianqing put away the jade slip and frowned in disdain. How boring. Do you have to tell me about such a small matter? It's just destroying a branch, and the ones killed are all small fries. He had investigated before and had some understanding of the power of the 6 great sections. For example, the headquarters of the Blood Sword sect was located in the Dragon Blood Forbidden Ground in Shanyang County, and outsiders couldn't enter. Many of the elders, deacons, and elite disciples were cultivating in the sect. However, the Blood Sword sect had branches in more than 20 counties. These branches had a few attendants, dozens of inner disciples, and hundreds of vassals. These vassals were either in-name disciples or lackeys recruited from the secular world. Normally, each branch was responsible for gathering information, conducting business transactions, and doing shady business. More than 20 branches added together were the eyes and tools of the Blood Sword sect. These venerated sects seemed high and mighty, as if they didn't eat the food of mortals. In fact, they had to open branches and raise a large number of people. If they didn't gather information, the entire sect was blind and deaf. Chapter 2939. Ji Tianqing was ridiculing left emissary Jin. But he knew that the Blood Blade sect was doing the right thing. First, they would destroy the various branches of the Blood Sword sect, cut off their wings, and plunder their resources, causing the Blood Sword sect to fall into chaos. Next, they would kill the experts of the Blood Sword sect one by one, destroying their mainstay and elite forces. Finally, when the experts of the Blood Sword sect had withered and become weak, only then would they be able to kill their way into the Dragon Blood Forbidden Land and completely exterminate it. This was what it meant to be steady and steady. Attacking the enemy's lair as soon as they arrived, it would be too naive of them to think that they could succeed in one go. Even if the Blood Blade sect came out in full force, they might not succeed. Instead, they would be sending their heads to their deaths. Forget it. Seeing that the Blood Blade sect is more efficient, I won't bicker with them. Ji Tianqing estimated that according to the Blood Blade sect's operation plan, at least for 2 or 3 months, he wouldn't be of any use. After all, the Blood Blade sect's goal was to destroy the various branches. He couldn't follow the deacons of the Blood Blade sect and charge into the enemy lines with those elite experts, right? That was the job of cannon fodder and minions. It was too degrading. As an expert, and an expert of mysterious origin, he would only appear when dealing with the experts and leaders of the Blood Sword sect. Only then could he maintain his mystery and majesty. That's right, Ji Tianqing thought so. At the same time, he found an excuse to slack off. Ji Tianqing was just thinking about how to slack off. A spiritual light flew over from the horizon and landed in front of him. Within the spiritual light was a jade slip with special patterns. Without a doubt, it was another secret letter. But it wasn't from left emissary Jin, but Qi Tianlong's jade slip. Ji Tianqing put the Blood Blade sect aside for now. He reached out and picked up the jade slip to read its contents. Qi Tianlong's voice immediately sounded in his mind. Young Master Tianqing, the matter in Tianfeng County City has calmed down. A few days ago, the people in Tianfeng County City were in a state of panic. The 5 great families fought for power, causing chaos in the city. After the princess was killed, the princess's residence was also in danger and desperately counterattacked. When the monarch heard the news, he was furious. In the imperial court, he ordered Sir God Shui Mo to bring people to Tianfeng City to investigate the cause of the matter. He had to find the murderer who killed Princess Tianfeng and punish him severely. He had to give an explanation to the Princess Manor and the people, as well as protect the reputation of the theocracy. However, the monarch didn't set a time limit and Sir God Shui Mo didn't make a military order. A few days later, the monarch announced in the imperial court that Count Dolong would be appointed as the Tianfeng Infanta Princess. This Count Dolan was a relative of the royal family and an old minister of the neutral faction. He was only loyal to the king. Earl Dolong led a large group of trusted aides and elites to Tianfeng City and took over the city lord's mansion. In less than 3 days, the 5 great clans were suppressed and the chaos in the county city was quelled. Now, Count Dolong was in control of the overall situation and was wrapping things up. He believed that it wouldn't be long before the incident in Tianfeng City was over. The 5 great clans were very ambitious. They all wanted to fight for the position of princess, but they didn't expect that their efforts would be in vain. Moreover, Count Dolong followed the monarch's order and blackmailed the 5 great clans, causing them to bleed heavily. This was the content of Qi Tianlong's secret letter. At the beginning, the tone was solemn. At the end, when he talked about the 5 great clans, he was gloating. Ji Tianqing put away the jade slip with a faint smile in his eyes. The last bit of worry in his heart disappeared with the secret letter. Previously, he couldn't figure out the monarch's thoughts and was worried. Many people knew that he was the one who killed Princess Tianfeng. The monarch had many spies and was in charge of the theocracy. Of course, he would know. If the monarch really wanted to catch the murderer, he could send experts to arrest him secretly. However, the monarch didn't do that. He flew into a rage in the imperial court and ordered Sir God Shuai-mo to be an imperial envoy to investigate the matter and find out the murderer. It was all an act. Everyone knew that the monarch was pretending to be confused. Sir God Shuai-mo was only pretending to investigate the matter. They were all smart people, so there was no need for him to say anything more. Ji Tianqing murmured to himself, since the monarch is pretending to be confused, it means that he has admitted that I am on the 3rd prince's side. At the same time, he knew that Princess Tianfeng was the 2nd prince's supporter. In his opinion, this matter was a contest between the 2 princes. He didn't want to break the balance. He couldn't intervene in the contest between the princes. The death of Princess Tianfeng was just a loss for the 2nd prince. If the monarch orders to deal with me, others would think that he is suppressing the 3rd prince and supporting the 2nd prince. This kind of signal must not appear. Although Ji Tianqing had never met the monarch and didn't understand the monarch's nature, however, if he thought about it from another perspective, it wasn't difficult to guess the monarch's thoughts. It was also because of this that he was fearless no matter how much trouble he caused. Since the matter in Tianfeng City had been settled, he didn't care about it anymore. He got up and left the room. He asked the guard to inform Ning Xiyuan. Tell Miss Ning that I have come out of seclusion. If she needs anything, she can come to the pine yard to find me. The guard in silver armor said yes and hurried to pass the message. Ji Tianqing went to the study room and sat down on the armchair. He asked the maid to make a cup of tea and slowly tasted it. After half a cup of tea, Ning Xiyuan arrived as scheduled. She was still wearing her silver armor, but she didn't wear a helmet. Her long hair was tied up in a ponytail. He looked valiant and cool, very neat and capable. After the meeting, they greeted each other and went straight to the point. Miss Ning, you are tired after escorting the goods. Why are you looking for me instead of resting? Ji Tianqing held the exquisite teacup and asked calmly. Ning Xiyuan looked worried. She hesitated for a moment and said, actually, it's just some personal matters. I don't have any confidants or friends in the Ning mansion. I don't know who to talk to. I couldn't make up my mind at the moment, so I thought of you. If you don't want to hear it, just pretend I didn't say anything. In the Ning mansion, she was a noble young lady. Others could only respect her. Who could be friends with her? As for confidants, they had to be people of the same age. They had to be of equal status and strength. Duan Mushitsi was qualified, but Ning Xiyuan hated him. It was already difficult for them to be friends. How could they be confidants? Therefore, Ji Tianqing was the most qualified person. Ji Tianqing put down the teacup and smacked his lips. He said, "Miss Ning, you think so highly of me? How long have we known each other? You think of me as a confidant?" Ning Siyuan pursed her lips and nodded. She said, "If we are talking about confidants, I am the one who is out of my league. I just think that you are more worthy of my trust than the others." Ji Tianqing nodded and said with a smile, "Well, since you trust me so much, I can't help you with anything else, but I can be a listener." Chapter 2940. The fate between people was very mysterious. Some people didn't need to do anything. Others were interested in them, trusted them, and even took the initiative to get close to them. For example, Ji Tianqing. But some people, even if they were devoted to someone else, had no regrets, and had secretly invested a lot of energy. They couldn't get the other party's response and approval. They were even despised and hated by the other party. For example, Crown Prince Tuanmu. How could this kind of thing be justified? After all, things like fate and emotions were unreasonable to begin with. To Ji Tianqing, Ning Siyuan was just a good-looking and good-natured girl. She wasn't stunning, nor did he have a good impression of her. It was impossible for him to have feelings for her. However, Ning Siyuan was a clean and straightforward girl. At least, she wasn't annoying. Moreover, she was a little special compared to other girls. Now that he was in the Ning family, his food and accommodation were all provided by them. He even needed their help. Since they took the initiative to ask for help, he couldn't just sit back and do nothing, right? That would be unreasonable. Therefore, Ji Tianqing decided to be a listener. He would also give appropriate help and advice to the best of his ability. Ning Siyuan lowered her head and said, "Yesterday, my aunt sent me a letter. It was sent to me alone." "Your aunt? The third princess consort?" Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows. "Yes." Ning Siyuan nodded and said with a lonely tone, "For so many years, my aunt loved me the most and was most concerned about my future. Because of the engagement, she complained a lot about my father." Ji Tianqing couldn't help but chuckle. "That was when your father was young. He was simple and not snobbish. He also valued brotherhood. Qi Tianlong saved his life. At that time, he didn't even have a wife, so he became sworn brothers with Qi Tianlong and promised to marry him in the future. Therefore, you were destined to marry into the Qi family before you were even born. Your aunt is the princess consort. She had to find you a noble family. How could she bear to see you marry Qi Tianji?" Ning Siyuan rolled her eyes at him and said somewhat angrily, "You know it so well. You make it sound so easy. Why don't you have any sympathy?" Ji Tianqing shrugged helplessly. "You're the pride of the heavens. Do you still need others to pity you?" Ning Siyuan frowned and said, "Let's get down to business. Don't stray from the topic." Ji Tianqing held the teacup and pretended to listen attentively. "Okay, go on." Ning Siyuan sighed softly and said with some distress, "Aunt is the same as me. When she was young, she was also troubled by the Ning bloodline. Fortunately, she had found her true love before the outbreak of Heavenly Slayer and married the third prince. I still have a year before Heavenly Slayer erupts. But since I don't want to marry Qi Huanji, I can't ruin the Ning family's reputation, and I don't want to die prematurely in Heavenly Slayer. Therefore, I'm very distressed right now. I don't know what to do." Ji Tianqing frowned and asked, "What's the matter with Heavenly Slayer?" Ning Siyuan hesitated and explained, "It's a problem with the Ning family's bloodline. Because the Ning family's ancestor had a trace of the bloodline of an ancient divine beast. This made the Ning family's bloodline very strong and outstanding. More than half of their descendants can become divine lords. The chances of breaking through to the divine king realm is 1 in 1,000. However, the Ning family's bloodline has a flaw. It's too violent and sharp. Before breaking through to the divine lord realm, there will definitely be a tribulation. When it erupts, the bloodline will be chaotic and violent, like a volcano erupting. The soul will also become muddled and blurry, and the divine body will burn. Even if they use all kinds of methods to treat it, they still can't prevent the tragedy from happening. In the end, the bloodline will dry up, the flesh will be burned, and the soul will be broken. Those who are lucky enough to survive will become mentally disabled. After many years, the Ning family concluded their experience. Heavenly Slayer can't be stopped. Before it erupts, it can only be mixed with another bloodline. Using another bloodline to neutralize and dilute the Ning family's bloodline can avoid Heavenly Slayer. Ji Tianxing finally understood. He nodded slightly and said, in this case, the Ning family's bloodline is only flawed, and not truly fatal. The only regret is that the Ning family descendants can't protect themselves, and have to combine with others. Ning Xiyuan nodded in agreement. That is true. But I always feel that this method of avoiding Heavenly Slayer is not the most perfect and effective. After merging with another bloodline, Heavenly Slayer will not appear again. But the Ning family bloodline will be diluted, and one's talent will decrease by half. I often fantasize if there is some wondrous method in the world that can avoid Heavenly Slayer and not weaken the power of the Ning family bloodline. If there is such a method, I will get it even if I have to pay with my life. At least, it can stop the Ning family descendants from suffering and being threatened. Ji Tianxing thought and asked, the Ning family bloodline contains a trace of the bloodline of an ancient divine beast. What ancient divine beast? Ning Xiyuan answered, an 8-armed, 3-eyed Heaven's Wrath divine ape. Ji Tianxing said with a slight smile, Heaven's Wrath divine ape. That is an existence comparable to a heavenly dragon and an ancient divine elephant, a true divine king rank bloodline. And the grade of the Ning family bloodline can only be considered quasi-divine lord rank. The perfect solution that you want only needs a drop of Heaven's Wrath divine ape's blood. With the Heaven's Wrath divine ape's divine blood, it can resolve the flaw of the Ning family bloodline and even allow the bloodline to rise rapidly, becoming quasi-divine king rank. Without waiting for him to finish, Ning Xiyuan rolled his eyes at him. Young Master Tianxing, this method that you speak of, all the Ning family descendants have dreamed of it before. This is completely unrealistic. In the entire Great Yan Empire, no one has heard of a Heaven's Wrath divine ape appearing. That is a divine king powerhouse. Who can take a drop of its divine blood? Moreover, the Heaven's Wrath divine ape only appeared in the ancient era. Presently, whether such a divine beast still exists in this world is unknown. Ji Tianxing refuted without thinking, you're wrong. Of course, the Heaven's Wrath divine ape exists. Furthermore, there is more than one. The Great Yan Empire doesn't exist, but the boundless heaven continent absolutely exists. Seeing his confident expression in so certain tone, Ning Xiyuan was stunned on the spot. How do you know? And so certain. Ji Tianxing nearly blurted out. Because I saw it with my own eyes before, and even beat those 2 Heaven's Wrath divine apes until they cried for their parents. But when the words reached his mouth, he still held it back and grinned and said, because I saw it recorded in the history books. It's absolutely true. Sigh. Ning Xiyuan heaved a sigh and chose to ignore his words. Forget it, I know that you're comforting me. Thank you. Let's not talk about this anymore. Let's talk about Aunt's secret letter. Ji Tianxing also could not bring up the Heaven's Wrath divine ape anymore. Seeing her change the topic, he nodded and replied, you say. Ning Xiyuan said in a low voice, Aunt asked me to pack up and prepare to go to the royal capital next month. Just nice, the divine blood ceremony that happens once every 50 years is about to begin. At that time, all the prodigies in the country will gather. Aunt wants to take this opportunity to choose a suitable husband for me. As for the Qi family, she will think of a way to persuade the Qi family to give up on our engagement and give the Qi family the corresponding compensation. Chapter 2941. Divine Blood Ceremony. A Gathering of Geniuses. Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and asked with interest, "What kind of ceremony is that? You don't know about this?" Ning Xiyuan was surprised. After thinking for a while, she understood the reason. "I understand. You are definitely not a citizen of Bloodfire Divine Country. You came here from another country." Ji Tianqing did not deny it. "You can say that. All right." Ning Xiyuan nodded and explained, "Regarding the origin of the Divine Blood Ceremony, we have to start from 10,000 years ago, when Bloodfire Divine Country was established. Next, she used close to 15 minutes to introduce the Divine Blood Ceremony to Ji Tianqing. The origins, functions, and significance of the ceremony, as well as the relevant rules and regulations, were all introduced in detail. Ji Tianqing then understood that the Divine Blood Ceremony was Bloodfire Divine Country's grandest ceremony. 10,000 years ago, before Bloodfire Divine Country was established, it experienced a bloody war. At that time, this land was enslaved by the Sea Clan. Billions of living creatures were slaves of the Sea Clan, living a miserable life. The first-generation Bloodfire Divine Lord led 40 warriors to fight against the Sea Clan. In the process of exile, Bloodfire Divine Lord kept recruiting warriors of the God Clan to fight against the rule of the Sea Clan. After hundreds of years of development, Bloodfire Divine Lord finally had an army of 3 million and controlled close to half of the land. He won the hearts of the people and gathered billions of people. Finally, he could call himself a divine country. But the Sea Clan gathered an army of 5 million, led by 10 powerful upper divine lords. They intended to destroy Bloodfire Divine Country and reclaim their lost land. Both sides started a hellish slaughter and war. Facing the large number of Sea Clan troops and experts, Bloodfire Divine Lord was forced to retreat. Not only did he lose cities and land, but his army and people were also slaughtered. In the end, both sides fought a decisive battle at Boundless Pass. More than 3 million God Clan troops and Sea Clan troops, hundreds of divine lords, fought in a 100,000-mile area. Bloodfire Divine Lord was about to be defeated. At the critical moment of life and death, Bloodfire Divine Lord and the 9 divine generals worked together and built the Furious Blood Divine Formation. They sacrificed their lives, burned their flesh and soul, and pushed the power of the Furious Blood Divine Formation to the limit. The world-destroying Divine Formation heavily injured the Sea Race's army and killed several High Divine Lords. However, the strongest expert of Blood Flame Divine Kingdom had been sacrificed. Although the Oceanids were heavily injured, they charged even more ferociously. Left with no choice, the surviving 1 million-plus God Race soldiers also stepped into the Crimson Blood Divine Formation. They all burned their flesh and soul, sacrificing their lives. This way, the Divine Race army that took part in the battle at Boundless Pass that day was virtually completely wiped out. From the leaders and divine generals to the millions of soldiers, all of them had been sacrificed. But their sacrifice caused the Furious Blood Divine Array to undergo a qualitative change, and it actually broke through to the God King level. Thus, the Crimson Blood Divine Formation slaughtered everything within 100,000 miles. That area was completely transformed into a world of blood. Hundreds of Sea Clan Divine Lords and more than 2 million soldiers were all killed by the Crimson Blood Divine Array. The boundless world of Bloody Sea continued for an entire half a month. It surged violently and destroyed the heavens and the earth. All the Oceanids were trapped in the Divine Formation. Even the High Divine Lords could not escape. Half a month later, the world of Bloody Sea disappeared. More than 2 million Sea Tribe soldiers had also disappeared without a trace. Not even a complete corpse was left behind. Blood Flame Divine Kingdom finally won. Although it was a Pyrrhic victory, the Oceanids suffered a calamity and retreated to the setting sun ocean, never daring to set foot on land again. Later, Blood Flame Divine Lord's eldest son personally led the army to the battlefield to pay respects to his father and the soldiers who had sacrificed themselves. The mountains and rivers within 100,000 miles were destroyed. Boundless Pass was also gone. That area had become a blood-colored wasteland. Whether it was the Oceanids or the god race, not a single corpse was left. However, in the center of the battlefield, there was a towering tree that was thousands of feet tall, completely blood-red and shining with light. It was said that Blood Flame Divine Lord and all the soldiers were united and sacrificed themselves for the divine kingdom, moving the heavens. As a result, the heavens sent down blessings and used the blood and sweat of all the soldiers to form that sacred tree. Blood Flame Divine Kingdom transported that towering sacred tree back to the palace and worshipped it as a divine object of the kingdom. The towering sacred tree also had a name. It was called the Blood Flame Sacred Tree. Later, Blood Flame Divine Lord's eldest son inherited the throne and became the second king. 50 years later, he discovered that the Blood Flame Sacred Tree's outer appearance had not changed, but its power was extremely abundant. It was like a sacred tree that was at the level of a divine king. However, it was limited by the rules of the heavens and could not reach the level of a divine king. Therefore, the excess divine power would dissipate and nourish the people who worshipped the sacred tree. Since then, the second emperor had set down a rule. Every year on the 9th day of the 10th month, the royal family would hold the divine blood ceremony. It was to celebrate the establishment of Blood Flame Divine Kingdom and also to commemorate the sacrifice and dedication of Blood Flame Divine Lord and more than 1 million soldiers in that battle. This was to remind the people of the divine kingdom that peace did not come easily. They should never forget the blood that their ancestors had shed, the sacrifices and the price that they had paid. At the same time, the divine blood ceremony would hold several banquets and martial arts competitions. As long as they were people of the divine kingdom and had outstanding talent, they could participate in the competitions. The 9 geniuses who won in the end were qualified to enter the forbidden area of the royal palace and worship the Blood Flame Sacred Tree. When the 9 geniuses worshipped, the Blood Flame Sacred Tree would release a mysterious and powerful power. The geniuses who received the blessings and baptism of the sacred tree would greatly increase their strength and aptitude. Their future was limitless. Apart from that, the royal family of Blood Flame Divine Kingdom and the meritorious ministers who had made outstanding contributions were also qualified to worship the sacred tree and receive the blessings and baptism. However, for ordinary people and warriors, participating in the martial arts competition and getting into the top 9 was the only way to worship the sacred tree. Ji Tianqing's interest was piqued when he learned about this. He looked at Ning Xiyuan with a smile and asked, "Miss Ning, do you think I am qualified to participate in the divine blood ceremony?" Ning Xiyuan immediately narrowed her eyes and revealed a meaningful smile. "You want to worship the Blood Flame Sacred Tree?" Ji Tianqing smiled and nodded. "Of course. The sacrifice of the Blood Flame Divine Monarch and the million soldiers made me very moved and impressed. I believe that 99% of the people are like me and want to worship the sacred tree." Ning Xiyuan nodded slightly and said, "If you want to participate, of course you can. The divine kingdom has laws. Other than slaves and criminals, all ordinary people of the divine kingdom can observe the ceremony. However, those who want to participate in the martial arts competition must be young geniuses. Simply put, those who are under 1,000 years old and have reached the divine monarch realm can participate." Ji Tianqing pondered. Ning Xiyuan was not even 100 years old and was already a half-step divine monarch. Looking at the entire Blood Flame Divine Kingdom, there were probably no more than 10 people with such talent. After all, her age was no different from a child to the divine race. Ordinary divine race members could live for more than 10,000 years. Chapter 2942. Ning Xiyuan's talent was excellent. Unfortunately, her bloodline calamity was not resolved, so she could not break through to the Divine Lord realm. She might not be able to participate in this year's divine blood ceremony. The next ceremony would be 50 years later. Ji Tianqing thought to himself, "Should I help her? Resolve her bloodline calamity so that she can participate in the ceremony? Of course. What he meant by resolving the problem was not Ning Shi's method. Sharing a room with Ning Siyuan and doing something indescribable to achieve the effect of bloodline fusion. That was absolutely impossible. Even if he wanted to help others, Ji Tianqing would never sell his body and integrity. At this moment, Ning Siyuan frowned and said, "You're changing the topic again. Aunt sent me a message asking me to go to the capital and use the opportunity of the divine blood ceremony to pick one of the top 9 geniuses. She will help us get married and appease the Qi family. Young Master Tianqing, do you have any ideas?" Ji Tianqing spread his hands without hesitation. "What ideas can I have? Your aunt wants you to go, so you go." "You." Ning Siyuan frowned and glared at him angrily. "Young Master Tianqing, do you treat me as a friend or not? Don't you have any ideas? Don't you have anything to persuade me?" Ji Tianqing coughed and said seriously, "Well, I do have some ideas." Ning Siyuan calmed down and her eyes lit up. She said expectantly, "Tell me." Ji Tianqing said seriously, "How about this, I'll help you resolve your bloodline calamity problem. This way, you can quickly break through to the Divine Lord realm and make it in time for this divine blood ceremony. Also, you don't have to choose from the top 9 geniuses. You can still maintain your engagement with Qi Huanji and marry him in the future." Ning Siyuan listened carefully. When she heard the first 2 sentences, she was obviously stunned. A trace of embarrassment flashed in her eyes and her heart skipped a beat. But when she heard the last sentence, her body stiffened and her expression turned ugly. She was even angry and annoyed. "You! How can you be so shameless? Not only are you unwilling to take responsibility, you even want to make Qi Huanji a cuckold." Ning Siyuan's face was full of anger. Her eyes were covered with a layer of mist, and she was about to cry. Ji Tianqing was also a little confused. He quickly waved his hand and explained, "Don't cry, don't cry. What are you thinking? It was a misunderstanding. When I said that I would help you deal with bloodline heavenly bane, I was using my own method. It's not what you think." Ning Siyuan came to a sudden realization and revealed an awkward expression. She probably felt embarrassed in front of Ji Tianqing, so she glared at him angrily. "It's all your fault. You didn't even make yourself clear." Ji Tianqing rolled his eyes helplessly. "Who knew that a girl like you would only think about getting married and sleeping in the same room? You even thought about being cuckolded, you're still talking." Ning Siyuan was even more embarrassed and angry. She glared fiercely at him. Ji Tianqing stopped there and said calmly, "All right, this matter is settled. I'll prepare for a few days and think about how to cure it. If there's a need, I may need your cooperation. I have to study your bloodline." Ning Siyuan was full of anticipation. She stood up and bowed to him, saying, "Young Master Tianqing, thank you for being willing to listen to me and help me. Although, I dare not believe that you can solve it smoothly. But I believe that you are a very special person. Perhaps you can really create a miracle. If you really succeed, you will be the benefactor of the Ning clan. We will remember your kindness forever. Don't say thank you. I'll try first." Ji Tianqing waved his hand and sent her away. Although he had solved a few similar bloodline problems in his previous life. But he had never met the Ning clan's heavenly bane. Of course, he knew that many upper celestial lords had appeared in the Ning clan. They had also invited numerous brilliant doctors. But no one could truly solve the heavenly bane bloodline. Ji Tianqing did not have much confidence, so he naturally could not speak too confidently. After sending off Ning Siyuan, he sat alone in the study and sank into deep thought. He searched through the memories of his previous life for similar bloodline problems and compared them with the Ning clan's heavenly bane. Then, he searched for treatment methods in his memories, filtering and considering. This process was a bit slow. After all, his soul memories were as vast as the sea of stars. The information storage was too terrifying. Even with the strength of his soul, it would take a day to comb through all his memories. Unknowingly, several hours passed. At dawn, the voice of a guard came from the door of the study. "Young Master Tianqing, the patriarch has come to visit. He has important matters to discuss with you." Ji Tianqing's train of thought was interrupted, so he temporarily put the matter aside. "Invite Patriarch Ning in." The guard outside the door responded. Then, Ning Qingang stepped into the study. He had clearly not slept the entire night and had been busy recently. There was a hint of tiredness between his brows. Seeing Ji Tianqing, he greeted him first. Ji Tianqing exchanged a few words with him and found that his expression was grave, as if something was on his mind. "Patriarch Ning, why have you come to find me so early in the morning? Have the 50,000 sets of heavenly god-grade equipment been sold?" Ning Qingang nodded calmly and explained, "A few days ago, I found a few merchants and nobles to discuss this matter with them. As of yesterday evening, this matter was settled. 3 merchants and 2 nobles are willing to buy the 50,000 pearls. The transaction will be completed tomorrow. As for the 50,000 sets of heavenly god-grade equipment, we will have to wait for the workshop to produce more than 1,000 sets of monarch-grade equipment before we can deliver them to the buyers in the capital. The price given by the buyers is more reasonable. I roughly calculated that after the transaction is completed, you should receive 360 billion. Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and said, "Needless to say, I only want 10 billion. The remainder will be the Ning family's labor fee. Thanks to Patriarch Ning's help in this matter, I can't thank you enough." Ning Qingang did not refuse and said solemnly, "Young Master Tianqing, you are too polite. This is your help to the Ning family. After this transaction is completed, the buyers in the capital will cooperate with the Ning family for a long time. You have done the Ning family a great favor, so I have to thank you properly." Ji Tianqing nodded and said, "In addition to this matter, I'm afraid there is something else that Patriarch Ning came to me for." Ning Qingang pondered for a moment and said in a serious tone, "Last night, the 3rd prince sent me a secret letter and mentioned you." Ji Tianqing frowned slightly and thought for a moment before asking, "Is it about Princess Tianfeng?" "Yes." Ning Qingang said truthfully, "Those who know about that matter all know that Princess Tianfeng was killed by you. But you are very clever and did not leave any clues or traces. So, no one can catch you openly. But you are a very smart person, so you should be able to guess why the monarch pretended to be confused and let you go. However, no one can fool the monarch, let alone trample on the laws of the kingdom of God." The monarch privately summoned the 3rd prince and severely reprimanded him. Do you know what this means? Fengyun Reading Network. Chapter 2943. Ning Qingang had never treated Ji Tianqing as a junior, but as an equal. Because in his mind, Ji Tianqing's strength and means were at the same level as his. It was even possible that Ji Tianqing was above him. Therefore, the conversation between smart people was very concise. Ji Tianqing said without hesitation, "This is the last chance the monarch gave me for the sake of the 3rd prince. Next time, if I do the same thing again, or even kill an official with a higher status, I will be punished. The monarch will not tolerate me." Ning Qingang nodded and said in a solemn tone, "You are right. Therefore, you need to be careful in the future. In everyone's eyes, including the monarch's, you are already a member of the 3rd prince's faction. If you make a big trouble, the 3rd prince will also be implicated." Ji Tianqing smiled and cupped his hands, "Since that's the case, then please tell the 3rd prince that I've never pledged allegiance to any force. I will be responsible for my own actions and will never implicate others. This was the case in the past, now, and in the future." Ning Qingang was suddenly moved and quickly persuaded, "Why do you say that, young Master Tianqing? You are too serious. The third prince does not mean to blame you and is not a person who is afraid of trouble. As long as you are talented, the third prince will definitely put you in an important position and will never treat you badly. Ji Tianqing still maintained his smile and said, Master Ning, you don't have to persuade me anymore. I also want to believe that the third prince is as you said. But he is a prince after all. His identity is limited and he can't be free. I have never liked to be restrained and am used to being free and domineering. During this time, I am grateful for the Ning family's care and help. If the Ning family is in danger in the future, let me know and I will definitely help. As for the third prince, if there is no grudge between us, I will not be his enemy. Please rest assured. Hearing these words, Ning Qinggang was a little anxious. Young Master Tianqing, what do you mean by saying this? Are you going to leave? Ji Tianqing did not hide it and nodded. I am a transient in the world, a passerby in the mortal world. How can I stay here all the time? However, I will wait until the transaction is completed before I leave. Ning Qinggang was silent for a long time before he sighed with regret. Sigh. I hope Gongzi Tianqing can understand. It's not that the third prince wants you to follow the rules. It's just that we can't control ourselves, and will never be truly free. I can't be as unrestrained as you, doing whatever you want. Ji Tianqing smiled and said, I understand this better than you. So, let's meet again in the martial world. Let's go our separate ways. Ning Qinggang knew that he had made up his mind, so he didn't try to persuade him anymore. He smiled and said, It's my honor to be able to meet such an extraordinary person like young Master Tianqing. From now on, no matter where young Master Tianqing is, the Ning family will always be your friend. You are always welcome to visit us. Ji Tianqing cupped his hands and thanked him. Ning Qinggang hesitated for a moment and asked, I've hesitated for a while, but I still want to ask young Master Tianqing, where will you go after leaving Tianxue County? Ji Tianqing didn't hide it and answered truthfully, the royal capital, divine blood ceremony. Ning Qinggang immediately revealed a smile and made a statement. Then, he bid farewell to Ji Tianqing and left the study. In the Bailon courtyard. For the past 10 days, Duanmu had been very idle. He left everything to Hu Lai, and he only needed to read, drink tea, and stare blankly. When he had nothing to do, he would find Ning Siyuan every day and use all kinds of excuses to get close to her. Unfortunately, Ning Siyuan was out on a mission for 7 days. She was only at home for 3 days, but she claimed to be recuperating and wouldn't see anyone. Later, Hu Lai secretly found out. Ning Siyuan didn't meditate at all and entered Qingsong courtyard late at night to have a rendezvous with Ji Tianqing. Of course. The rendezvous was something Duanmu had imagined. At this time, the sun rose. Duanmu had just woken up and washed up when his trusted aide, Hu Lai, came to report. I just saw family head Ning enter Qingsong courtyard. I heard that family head Ning and that kid met in the study and had a secret talk for a long time before leaving. Duanmu was drinking tea with a cup in his hand. When he suddenly heard the news, his face immediately darkened, and the teacup in his hand cracked. Damn bastard! Did he bewitch Uncle Ning and Ning Siyuan? I've been here for 10 days, and Uncle Ning didn't take the initiative to look for me. Ning Siyuan also avoided meeting me. But that father and daughter pair went to see that kid every 2 to 3 days. I can't tolerate it anymore. I must act as soon as possible and drive that kid out of the Ning family. Hu Lai hurriedly added, Don't worry, heir. The 2 consecrators, Qing Shan and Lu Shui, arrived last night. In order to keep it a secret, they're staying in a villa outside the city and are waiting for your orders. Qing Shan and Lu Shui were both veteran monarchs and had been overlords in their early years. Because they had offended a powerful force, their foundation and power were eradicated, and they became fugitives. It was Crown Prince Duanmu who had helped to resolve the crisis of the 2 monarchs. Since then, the the two monarchs had turned to Duan Mu'er and became his consecrators, working for him wholeheartedly. Duan Mu'er was immediately refreshed and said with his eyes shining, "Good. Now that Qin Shan and Lu Shui are here, I'm like a tiger that has grown wings. It's time to plan how to deal with that kid." As soon as he finished speaking, a spiritual light flew from the sky and landed in front of him. He reached out to take the jade slip in the spiritual light. When he saw the blood-red lines and symbols on the jade slip, his face became more joyful. "It's the jade slip from the evil blood palace. It must be the matter I asked them to investigate. There must be a result." As he spoke, he couldn't wait to read the contents of the jade slip. A hoarse middle-aged man's voice came out of the jade slip and sounded in his mind. "Good morning, heir, the matter you asked has been completed." Jianqing first appeared in Qinshan town. He met Qi Huanji and became a consecrator of the Qis. He represented the Qis in the martial arts competition. The middle-aged man spoke for 15 minutes, telling Duan Mu'er about Ji Tianqing's origin and what he had done in detail. Duan Mu'er became more and more excited as he listened. In the end, his breathing became heavier and his face turned red. That was because he was too excited. "Ha ha ha, the evil blood palace didn't let me down. This secret letter came at the right time. That little bastard thought he was doing things secretly and nobody knew. But he would never have thought that this crown prince would have the most powerful intelligence organization and would be able to find out his background so quickly. He was really audacious to do such a disgraceful thing. Now that I've got something on him, he'll be skinned alive even if he doesn't die. I'll make use of this opportunity to make him kneel down and beg for mercy. I'll make him get out of Jianxue County." Duan Mu'er said to himself excitedly. After putting away the jade slip, he waved his hand and ordered, "I've got an idea. Let's go out of the city now and start to take revenge." Chapter 2944. For the entire day, Ji Tianqing sat in his study. Xiao Luo whispered to him. He seemed to be resting with his eyes closed, but he was actually considering how to resolve the Ning clan bloodline's heavenly disaster. By the evening, he had already made some progress. Next, he would have to personally examine Ning Siyuan's bloodline to understand the situation. But at this moment, a guard came to report. Reporting to young Master Tianqing, "Someone outside the residence has delivered a secret letter for you." Ji Tianqing opened his eyes and said, "Present it." The silver-armored guard entered the study and presented a white jade slip to him. Ji Tianqing picked up the jade slip and examined it. It was a very ordinary jade slip without any special markings. He didn't know who had sent it. He used his divine sense to enter the jade slip and read the information inside. There were only 2 short sentences. "Do you want to live? I'll give you a chance. Tonight, arrive at Maplewood's villa outside the city. I won't wait for you if you're late." Ji Tianqing frowned and a disdainful sneer appeared on his lips. Which idiot wrote this secret letter? Could it be any more retarded? As he muttered to himself, he crushed the jade slip into powder. Such a clumsy method of provocation was useless against him. He disdained to pay attention to it and left the study to find Ning Siyuan. Ning Siyuan lived in the 6th courtyard. He lived alone in a magnificent and luxurious palace with dozens of guards and maids. Ji Tianqing stated his intentions and was led to the guest hall by a maid to wait. Soon, Ning Siyuan rushed over with light steps. "Young Master Tianqing, you've made progress so quickly." Ning Siyuan looked at him with shining eyes, his heart full of anticipation. Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and explained, "I've seen it before and have personally resolved a few similar bloodline problems. After a day of consideration, I already have a direction. But I have to personally examine your bloodline to determine where the problem lies." Ning Siyuan was pleasantly surprised and asked in disbelief, "Is what you said true? Could it be that your true identity is a miracle doctor?" Ji Tianqing said expressionlessly, I'm not a genius doctor, I'm omnipotent. Ning Siyuan was stunned for a moment before she revealed a smile. Her voice was as clear as a silver bell. I didn't expect that such a serious and mysterious person like you would also tell jokes. After knowing each other for so long, Ji Tianqing saw her smile for the first time. However, his words were not pleasant to the ears. Ji Tianqing couldn't be bothered to argue with him. With an indifferent expression, he said, if there are no other questions, then let's begin. Here. Ning Siyuan frowned and shook his head. Not here. Others will see. Besides, this is my place. If you stay here for too long, people will inevitably gossip. Why don't we go to Pine Tree Courtyard? Ji Tianqing couldn't help but curse, it's just a blood test, not a physical examination. Is there a need to be so secretive? What's more, people will gossip if I check your house. Don't tell me that people won't gossip if you go to Pine Tree Courtyard. Of course, he was just thinking about it. In the end, the two moved to Pine Tree Courtyard according to Ning Siyuan's suggestion. Originally, Ji Tianqing planned to check in the study. As long as the guards guarded the door and didn't let anyone disturb them, it would be fine. However, Ning Siyuan went straight to his bedroom, opened a secret door in the corner, and walked into the secret room. The secret room is full of divine power and there's a divine array. It's really helpful to check the blood. Yes, that's probably what she thinks. Ji Tianqing comforted himself. Unexpectedly, Ning Siyuan saw a jade bed in the secret room and decided to lie down on it. She lay straight with her legs together and her hands crossed in front of her chest. Okay, you can start the examination. Ning Siyuan closed her eyes and said expectantly. Ji Tianqing held his forehead helplessly. Miss Ning, I want to check your blood, not your body. Ning Siyuan was startled and felt a little embarrassed. Then what do I need to do? Just tell me what you want. Ji Tianqing could only instruct, sit cross-legged and use all your strength to stimulate your potential. Let the blood in your body boil. Just maintain it for half an hour. Ning Siyuan blinked her big blue eyes. Is it so troublesome? Those divine doctors didn't need to do this when they checked my blood. Ji Tianqing couldn't help but ask, what did you do when those divine doctors checked you? Just lie down and relax. Ji Tianqing was speechless. Ning Siyuan saw his helpless expression and could only sit cross-legged. She adjusted her breathing and state, then used some kind of divine power and secret technique to stimulate her potential. Soon, her body lit up with a 5-colored divine light. The meridians and blood in her body were also filled with violent divine power and started to flow faster. As she continued to circulate and stimulate her potential, her blood became turbulent and mighty, close to boiling. In this state, her skin was dyed with a layer of red, like a ruby. What surprised Ji Tianqing even more was that her body uncontrollably emitted a special fragrance. It wasn't the unique body fragrance of a young girl, but a simple and elegant fragrance. Ning Siyuan's fragrance was rich and special, very rare. Ji Tianqing observed for a while and understood that it was caused by her Ning family bloodline. Interesting. Ji Tianqing's interest was piqued. He used his God's Eye secret skill, and his eyes immediately turned golden. He stood in front of the jade bed, 2 steps away from Ning Siyuan. His eyes were focused on her body, observing the meridians and blood in her body. In his divine eye, Ning Siyuan's meridians and blood appeared without any concealment. In the dense and complicated meridians, there was a dark red blood boiling. Ji Tianqing could clearly see that the seemingly pure dark red bloodline actually contained an extremely faint trace of dark gold. Clearly, the Ning family bloodline was not pure. That faint dark gold did not belong to the Heaven's Rage Divine Ape bloodline. Ji Tianqing continued to observe, his eyes analyzing the dark red blood down to every drop of blood. This process was not long, lasting only 7 to 8 minutes. However, it was very taxing on his mind. Even though his divine soul was strong and his strength was boundless, he still felt tired and hurt. 7 to 8 minutes later, he finally understood the situation, found the cause, and ended his observation. Ning Xiyuan continued to channel and stimulate her potential. After 7 to 8 minutes, she was panting and sweating. Hearing Ji Tianqing say it was done, she stopped. Huff, huff, Ning Xiyuan wiped the sweat from her forehead. As she panted slightly, she asked Ji Tianqing, "How is it? Did you see the problem?" Ji Tianqing nodded and said with a smile, "I found the root of the problem. It is not a big problem. The bloodline problems I solved in the past were much more complicated than yours." "Really? How is this possible?" Ning Xiyuan widened her eyes in shock and looked at Ji Tianqing in disbelief. Ji Tianqing said confidently, "In 5 days at most, I promise to solve it for you." End of chapter. Chapter 2945. After getting Ji Tianqing's guarantee, Ning Xiyuan was very excited. In a short 5 days, the Ning clan bloodline's calamity could be solved. This was too inconceivable. For a moment, Ning Xiyuan felt like she was in a dream. She couldn't believe it. "Young Master Tianqing, although I know you are extraordinary and must be a talented person, your words are too exaggerated. But what you said is really too exaggerated. I simply can't believe it." Ji Tianqing smiled and said, "It doesn't matter if you believe it or not. It's just 5 days. Wait for my news at ease." Ning Xiyuan thought it was right. Anyway, it only needed 5 days. It would pass very quickly. Then she would wait patiently. Perhaps he could really create a miracle. Therefore, after bowing to Ji Tianqing and thanking him, she left the secret room with a heart full of joy. Looking at her departing figure, Ji Tianqing vaguely felt that something was wrong. He wanted to call out to her, but she left briskly and soon disappeared. Ji Tianqing could only give up. He got up and went to the study. He used a pen and paper to write down hundreds of medicinal herbs and divine materials. He already had an answer in his heart on how to treat Ning Xiyuan. As long as he gathered these hundreds of materials, he could refine 6 divine pills and concoct 12 sets of medicine. At that time, Ning Xiyuan would take the divine pills and medicine on time. Together with a secret bloodline cultivation technique, she could completely solve the calamity. After writing down the list of materials, Ji Tianqing handed the paper to the guard at the door and instructed, "Go to the residence's storeroom according to this list and get 1 set of each material." The guard only glanced at the list and revealed a shocked expression. He hesitated for a moment before saying carefully, "Young Master Tianqing, please forgive me for being rude and speaking out of turn. There are close to 100 materials on your list. They are all monarch-level divine materials and materials. They are very valuable. My words carry little weight. I'm only afraid that the storeroom manager won't be willing to give it to me." Ji Tianqing nodded and instructed, "Then tell them that these are the things that Miss Ning wants. If they don't believe me, they can ask Miss Ning themselves." Only then was the guard relieved. He hurriedly bowed and said, "Yes, young master." After saying that, the guard carefully took the list and went into the warehouse. Next, as long as he gathered the materials, Ji Tianqing would be able to refine the divine pill. He turned his head to look out the window and discovered that it was already late at night. It was already 6:45. In another quarter of an hour, it would be 9 o'clock. If that idiot who sent me the secret letter really went to Maplewood's villa outside the city, then just wait there obediently. He frowned and asked, "Hu Lai, ask Old Black if that kid has come." Hu Lai said yes and then sent a message to the black-clothed old man who was napping on the rockery at the gate. The black-clothed old man immediately replied, "He has not appeared." Hu Lai could only report the truth. Crown Prince Duanmu frowned fiercely and cursed with contempt, wasn't that kid very arrogant before? Why is he acting like a coward tonight? What a coward, he doesn't dare to come at all. Hu Lai hesitated for a moment and advised in a low voice, Crown Prince, you only mentioned Maplewood's villa in the secret letter and did not reveal your identity. Although that kid is arrogant, he is very cautious and most likely won't come. Crown Prince Duanmu frowned and sneered, then you mean that I should have left my signature in the secret letter? You idiot, do you want to kill me? If that brat takes the secret letter to Ning Qingang and spouts nonsense to slander this heir, wouldn't this heir's reputation be tarnished? Hu Lai quickly lowered his head and apologized, please calm down, Crown Prince. This subordinate has overstepped. Then, the two fell into silence. Time passed silently. After 2 hours, the sand in the hourglass ran out. Hu Lai tactfully took 2 steps forward and turned the hourglass over to continue counting. However, Crown Prince Duanmu waited for another 4 hours, but he did not see Ji Tianqing come. When dawn arrived, his patience finally ran out, and he began to curse furiously. Damn that little bastard, he really didn't dare to come and made me wait in vain. He won't come tonight. Let's go back. Crown Prince Duanmu got up angrily and walked out of the hall. 2 maids knelt on the ground and respectfully sent him off. Hu Lai quickly followed Crown Prince Duanmu and carefully comforted him. As for the 2 consecrators, Qing Shan and Lu Shui, they were still in the manor's secret room and would not appear for the time being. When the sky was slightly bright, Crown Prince Duanmu and Hu Lai quietly returned to the Ning residence. As soon as the 2 returned to the Bailong courtyard, a trusted guard asked to see Hu Lai with a strange expression and reported a piece of news. After Hu Lai heard it, he was dumbstruck and his expression was extremely ugly. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead and he did not know how to report it to the Crown Prince. This is simply, the sky is falling down. We're dead. The Crown Prince will definitely go crazy. End of chapter. Chapter 2946. When he thought of Duanmu heir's possible reaction, Hu Lai felt his scalp go numb. He took a deep breath and calmed himself down. He waved his hand, indicating for the guard to withdraw. Then, he walked towards Duanmu heir's bedroom with a solemn and stirring heart. Duanmu heir was throwing a tantrum in the bedroom. He smashed a few pots of flowers and flipped a table. Seeing Hu Lai enter the room with a grief-stricken expression, he scolded in a deep voice, "What's with that expression? Are your parents dead? If you have something to say, say it quickly. Don't get in the way in front of me." Hu Lai shrunk his neck from the scolding and buried his head in his chest. He didn't dare to look directly at Duanmu heir. After hesitating for a moment, he steeled his heart and carefully reporting to heir, "Something happened last night. This subordinate feels that it is necessary to report to you. If you have something to say, say it quickly." Duanmu heir impatiently scolded. Hu Lai's mouth twitched. He lowered his voice and said, "Last night, our spies and the estate's guards all saw Tianqing go to Miss Ning's residence. They stayed in Miss Ning's boudoir for half an incense stick's time before returning to Pine Tree Courtyard. After entering Pine Tree Courtyard, they dismissed the maids and guards and entered a secret room. Miss Ning only came out of the secret room after an hour. At that time, the Pine Tree Courtyard and the estate's guards, as well as our spies, all saw Miss Ning's appearance. At this point, Hu Lai's heart trembled and he didn't dare to continue speaking. Duanmu heir's breathing was rapid. His eyes were red and his chest was rising and falling rapidly. His anger was about to explode. However, he still suppressed his anger and coldly shouted in a low voice, "Speak. Continue. What happened to Ning Xiyuan?" Hu Lai braced himself and said, "Many people saw that Miss Ning's clothes were disheveled, her hair was disheveled, and her face was as red as a peach blossom. Moreover, there were still some traces of sweat on her forehead and cheeks. The estate's guards and maids were all secretly discussing this matter. When the sun rises, I'm afraid the entire Ning residence will know. Those servants all believe that the boy is about to become the Ning family's son-in-law. Hu Lai used up all his courage and strength to finish his words. He was well aware of how much this news affected the crown prince. Even if the crown prince went crazy on the spot and tore down the entire White Orchid courtyard, he would feel that it was only natural. But he didn't expect it. The room was silent. Tuanmu crown prince remained silent and didn't get angry. It was as if he had been petrified. His eyes were red as he stood rooted to the ground. He stared blankly at the door and his entire body was trembling. After a long while, he seemed to come back to his senses. Clear tears gushed out from his eyes and blood flowed from the corners of his mouth. Soon after, he began to wail loudly. Ah! Ning Siyuan! You bitch! To think that I loved you so much, that I would never regret being infatuated with you, even to the point of death. But you humiliated me like this, belittled me, and even made me a cuckold. Which part of that kid is like me? You actually disregarded your pride and dignity and took the initiative to climb into his bed and offer yourself to him. Why? Why was that? Heavens, why are you so unfair? Tuanmu crown prince couldn't take this huge blow. His legs gave way and he knelt on the ground, crying and wailing. Fortunately, the room was protected by a divine array. It was soundproof and could prevent divine sense from probing. Otherwise, with Tuanmu crown prince crying so heartbroken, people 10 miles away would have heard it. Seeing the crown prince so heartbroken, Hu Lai was very sympathetic and pitiful. He originally wanted to persuade the crown prince to not be too sad. Perhaps things weren't as you thought. However, many people saw that when Miss Ning left Pine Courtyard, her face was still flushed, sweaty, and her clothes were disheveled. Even an idiot would know what she did with Tianqing in the secret room. If Hu Lai went against his will to persuade Tuanmu crown prince, he felt that he would be struck by lightning. Sigh. Seeing Tuanmu crown prince break down, he was helpless and could only sigh deeply. 15 minutes later. Tuanmu crown prince finished venting and gradually calmed down. He no longer wailed and silently climbed up to sit on the edge of the bed. He slowly unsheathed his gleaming sword and stared at the blade with a malicious gaze. His expression was as cold as ice. Second imperial uncle is right. Women are the biggest obstacle to a man's ambition. From today onwards, I will sever all ties with Ning Siyuan and have nothing to do with him. If I continue to be infatuated with her, I will end up like this strand of hair. Tuanmu crown prince's voice was cold and emotionless as he muttered. He waved the sword in his hand and cut off a strand of hair. Flames emerged from his palm and burned the hair to ashes. Tonight, no matter what, I will kill him. In this world, if I exist, there will be no him. If he exists, there will be no me. Tuanmu crown prince seemed to be making an oath. His tone was especially solemn and respectful as he muttered to himself. The sky brightened and the sun rose. The Ning residence was as peaceful as usual. However, under the calm surface, there was a surging undercurrent. Since last night, a shocking piece of news had spread throughout the residence. Eldest Miss went to Pine Yard and entered a secret room with Sir Tianqing. They stayed there for more than an hour. When she left Pine Yard, Eldest Miss' clothes were disheveled, her face was flushed, and her hair and face were stained with sweat. She seemed to be very excited and happy. This news first spread among the guards and maids. After a few rounds of spreading and processing, it became more and more pink and exaggerated. When the news finally spread, it became, Eldest Miss' legs were so sore that she seemed to have no strength to walk. It really made one's imagination run wild. As a result, the servants of the Ning residence all felt that Eldest Miss had found her true love. It wouldn't be long before Sir Tianqing became the son-in-law of the Ning family. However, the Ning family descendants were somewhat worried. If Sir Tianqing suddenly appeared and became the son-in-law of the Ning family, the family structure would be shaken. At that time, it was inevitable that many people's interests would be damaged. Therefore, many Ning family descendants and relatives quietly gathered together to discuss how to deal with it. When the news reached Ning Qinggang's ears, it was already 10 o'clock in the morning. Ning Qingang, who was dealing with official business, was also dumbfounded on the spot. Then he was so angry that he blew his beard and glared, smashing the table with one slap and flying into a rage. Bastards! They're absolutely bastards. Those guards and maids are really audacious and have no regard for the family rules. No matter how the master acts, the servants are not allowed to interfere. Steward, immediately take people to investigate the source of the news. Whoever spread the news, immediately arrest them and wait to be executed. Whoever added fuel to the fire and wantonly spread it, also arrest them and hand them over to the torture chamber to be punished severely, and then expel them from the Ning residence. Ning Qingang, who had always been dignified, was so angry for the first time in 10 years. The steward was also frightened. He said yes and hurried to carry out the order. When the study was quiet and Ning Qingang was alone, he looked helpless and helpless. He couldn't help but rub his eyebrows. Chapter 2947. Someone, tell young Master Tianqing to come see me. Ning Qingang thought for a while before giving the order to the guard outside the door. The young guard obeyed and went to Pine Garden. Ning Qingang sat alone in the study, looking out the window with a complicated expression. He was restless. Of course, he was furious after such a thing happened. But what made him angry was the servants gossiping. As for Ning Siyuan, he didn't have much intention to blame him. Ning Siyuan was his only daughter whom he doted on the most, as well as the apple of his eye. She was the most outstanding genius of this generation of Ning family members. Because of his teachings, Ning Siyuan was very independent and opinionated. She wasn't delicate like other girls and was full of heroic spirit. However, Ning Siyuan's personality was a bit too strong. Ning Qingang was helpless about this. As for Ji Tianqing, Ning Qingang didn't understand. When they met yesterday, Ji Tianqing said that he yearned for freedom and would leave the Ning mansion soon. But what happened? Last night, he went into the secret room with Ning Siyuan and did that thing. As Ning Siyuan's father, Ning Qingang certainly blamed Ji Tianqing. You are indeed a genius. You are also very scheming and resourceful. If you and Siyuan were truly in love and were willing to stay in the Ning family, I would be happy to help you. But you don't want to stay in the Ning family and are about to leave. Why do you want to harm my daughter? Isn't this shaming the Ning family? When the Qi family finds out about this, how will I explain it to them? How will my daughter Siyuan face people in the future? Bastard, what are you trying to do? The more Ning Qingang thought about it, the angrier he became. He couldn't help but clench his fists. At this time, the guard rushed back to report the news. Master, young Master Tianqing is in seclusion in the secret room. Before he went into seclusion, he ordered that no one is to disturb him. Ning Qingang frowned and sneered with anger. Seclusion? I think he's hiding because he's guilty, right? The young guard remained silent, not daring to answer. After Ning Qingang calmed down, he ordered, go find eldest miss and have her come to see me in the study. The young guard acknowledged the order and turned to leave. This time, it went rather smoothly. After all, Ning Siyuan was only resting in her boudoir and had nothing to do. When she heard the guard's message, she immediately rushed over. When she entered the study, she saw Ning Qinggang's complicated expression. She was a little puzzled and asked, Father, are you looking for me? Judging from your frown and gloomy appearance, are you having trouble with your business? Ning Qingang frowned and said coldly in a dignified tone, don't change the subject. Don't you know why Father is looking for you? Ning Siyuan was a little confused. He didn't know why his father was angry. She quickly picked up the teapot and poured a cup of tea for her father. She comforted him, "Father, no matter what happened, please calm down and drink some tea." Ning Qingang was so angry that he wanted to laugh. He asked, "Siyuan, are you pretending to be confused, or are you really in the dark? Do you know that after you went to Pine Tree Yard last night, the whole mansion spread the news that you and that brat Tianqing?" As her father, he definitely wouldn't say anything else. He couldn't say that her clothes were disheveled and her face was flushed. Ning Siyuan froze for a moment and immediately understood. "Oh, so it's about that." She nodded with a smile on her face and said excitedly, "Father, I was just about to tell you about this. Last night, I did go to Pine Tree Yard and did something very important with young Master Tianqing in the secret room. It's related to the fate of the Ning family's descendants. You definitely won't be able to guess what it is." Ning Siyuan's heart was filled with joy and anticipation, and his expression was overflowing. Ning Qingang almost vomited blood when he heard this. He couldn't help but roll his eyes. "You and that brat are a perfect match. You were alone in the secret room for more than an hour. How could I not know what you did? If I didn't know, how could I have let your mother be pregnant with you?" Ning Siyuan stilled. Her face was full of question marks and she was a bit confused. However, she was a smart person and immediately reacted. She stomped her feet in embarrassment and anger. "Father! What nonsense are you talking about?" Ning Qingang held his forehead helplessly and said with a dignified expression, "All right, since you're pretending to be confused, then I'll give up this old face and tell you the truth. Let me ask you, what did you and Tianqing do in the secret room last night?" Ning Siyuan answered without hesitation, "Young Master Tianqing has a way to cure the calamity in my bloodline. He was checking my bloodline in the secret room." "Nonsense, all the Ning family members know the solution to Heavenly Slayer." Ning Qingang exclaimed in exasperation. "Is this why you're meeting in the secret room?" Before Ning Siyuan could explain, he said earnestly, "Siyuan, I know you don't want to marry into the Qi family and you don't like Qi Huanji. I understand your thoughts and didn't force you. However, you should know that this isn't the way to solve the problem. Even if you like Tianqing and want to be with him and have him solve the calamity for you, you still have a marriage contract. But you have an engagement after all, so you can't be impatient. We have to find a suitable opportunity to communicate with the Qi family and obtain their understanding before we can break off the engagement. At that time, you and Tianqing can get married in a proper way. Moreover, after you and Tianqing's bloodline intertwined, you would rather rest for one more night than show up in a hurry. At the very least, you should tidy up your clothes and calm down before leaving Pine Garden. But now, your appearance was seen by the guards and maids. Now that the news has spread in the estate, everyone knows that you and Tianqing have slept together. Even if I order the people who spread the news to be killed, it won't stop the public from gossiping. Your reckless actions this time will bring shame to the Ning family." Ning Qingang said the words in his heart in one breath. It could be said that he was heartbroken. Ning Siyuan froze in place, completely dumbfounded. Her expression was very interesting. After being stunned for a long time, she finally came back to her senses and her face was as cold as frost. "Father! Where did these rumors come from? They're slandering me and young Master Tianqing. How could even you be deceived? There's nothing between me and young Master Tianqing. Last night in the secret room, he only helped me check my bloodline. We didn't even touch skin to skin, so how could we do such a thing?" In her grief and indignation, Ning Siyuan didn't hide her words and directly told the truth. This time, it was Ning Qinggang's turn to be stunned. Siyuan, is what you're saying true?" Ning Siyuan said resolutely, "It's absolutely true. Young Master Tianqing is a divine doctor, and he's already found the cause of calamity. He promised me that he'll refine a divine pill within 5 days and help me deal with calamity. If the experiment succeeds, the Ning family descendants won't be troubled by calamity in the future. So it's like that? The haze in Ning Qingdang's heart dissipated, and he revealed surprise and joy. Ning Xiyuan said with a cold expression, "Young Master Tianqing helped us with good intentions. How can we let him take the blame and have his reputation ruined by rumors? Father, you must control the rumors and eliminate them in the shortest time possible." End of chapter. Chapter 2948. The truth had been revealed. Ning Qinggang was relieved of a great burden. At the same time, he was pleasantly surprised and in disbelief. "Xiyuan, father knows that young Master Tianqing is strong and skilled, but he is still young. How could he have the time and energy to learn medicine? He can't be a genius doctor." For thousands of years, the Ning family ancestors have found countless geniuses, but none of them could find the cause. Even peak divine Lord realm experts that the Ning family ancestors were fortunate enough to encounter could not cure Heavenly Slayer. Our ancestors guessed that only divine king realm experts had the ability to cure it. No matter how talented young Master Tianqing is, he cannot compare to a divine king. Ning Xiyuan's reaction was calm. Her anger had not yet subsided. Before entering the study, Ning Qinggang was very angry, but she was full of anticipation and joy. Now, it was the other way around. She said calmly, "Young Master Tianqing said that he had cured several similar bloodline problems. In comparison, the Ning family's Heavenly Slayer bloodline is not a problem." Ning Qinggang nodded slightly and said emotionally, "No matter what, we will see the result in 5 days. Since young Master Tianqing is so confident, then I would rather believe him. If he can really cure Heavenly Slayer, then he will be the great benefactor of the Ning family, the lucky star the heavens have given to the Ning family. At that time, how will I repay him?" Ning Xiyuan glanced at him and said coldly, "Let's not talk about repaying the benefactor. At least, we can't let him take the blame and be slandered behind his back." Ning Qinggang was a bit embarrassed and said with an embarrassed smile, "Don't worry, father has already sent people to investigate. Moreover, father will be able to control the rumors and eliminate them today." Ning Xiyuan was relieved and said, "Last night, young Master Tianqing sent people to the storehouse to take many herbs. He is in seclusion to refine medicine. Take advantage of the fact that he has not come out of seclusion and does not know about the rumors. Solve it as soon as possible." Ning Qinggang promised again that he could solve it today. So, Ning Xiyuan bid farewell and left the study. Ning Qinggang didn't waste any time and immediately ordered the Ning clan to gather in the main hall for a discussion. The rumors had already spread, and the Ning family members and elders all believed it to be true. He had to hold a meeting to clarify the matter and clear up the misunderstanding. After doing this, he still had to deal with the servants who started and spread the rumors. He had already sealed the rumors and information. In short, before Ji Tianqing comes out of seclusion, he must eliminate all the rumors and slanders. Qingsong Courtyard, Ji Tianqing's residence. In the secret chamber, a black divine pagoda stood on the ground. Ji Tianqing was currently in the distorted spacetime of the divine pagoda, concentrating on concocting divine pills. The divine pills and elixirs he wanted to refine were all high-grade monarch-grade divine medicines. Ordinary divine Lord Realm alchemists needed a year before they could refine it. But he was different. Not only did he have the support of the 9 heavens divine cauldron, but he also had the experience of a god king. Therefore, he only needed 3 months to complete it. Even if there was an accident during the refining process and the refinement failed, it would still be fine. He could still complete it within half a year at most. Half a year in the distorted spacetime was only 3 or 4 days in the outside world. That was why he boasted to Ning Xiyuan that he would finish it within 5 days. The ninth heaven divine cauldron floated in the distorted spacetime and expanded to 1,000 feet tall, emitting 5-colored divine light. The divine cauldron was operating, and the ninth heaven divine fire was burning inside. Ji Tianqing had already put dozens of sets of herbs into the divine cauldron. Now, he was sitting cross-legged in the spacetime, forming seals with both hands and constantly releasing divine power to control the divine cauldron to refine the pills. Time passed silently. He was completely focused, and the refining process was meticulous without any mistakes. After all, this was the highest-grade divine pill he had personally refined after his rebirth. A high-grade monarch-grade divine pill was a treasure worth tens of millions of divine stones. If the effect was special, the price could be raised several times, reaching hundreds of millions of divine stones per pill. The 6 divine pills he was refining this time were called Ancient God Blood Refining Pills. The 12 sets of elixirs to be made were called Divine Heart Purifying Soup. This was a divine medicine that targeted the Ning clan bloodline and had a unique effect. Ji Tianqing knew what was going on with Ning Xiyuan's divine death. It was actually not complicated. Before the Ning clan ancestor obtained the Heaven's Fury Ape God bloodline, he had refined another special bloodline. That special bloodline was golden in color and contained a special fragrance. It should be the bloodline of some ancient race. This bloodline was the same as the Heaven's Fury Ape God bloodline. They were both God-King bloodlines. In the boundless heaven continent, this was considered the bloodline of a top-notch expert. Unfortunately, the golden bloodline of the ancient race was rather thin, and its power was not obvious. The Heaven's Fury Ape God bloodline allowed the Ning clan ancestor's aptitude to increase, and his strength to increase by leaps and bounds. As the Ning clan ancestor continued to cultivate, the Heaven's Fury Ape God bloodline became purer and purer, and the ancient race bloodline was constantly suppressed. A few thousand years had passed. The Ning clan disciples only knew that they had the Heaven's Fury Ape God bloodline, but they did not know about the existence of another ancient bloodline. That ancient race bloodline was also at the God-King level and could not be erased. Hence, the two bloodlines had a conflict, producing Heavenly Slayer. It caused the Ning clan disciples to be unable to break through to the Divine Lord realm. They even had their bloodline boil and burn, dying on the spot. The problem was that simple. But the crux was that Divine Lord realm powerhouses could not tell at all. Divine Lord powerhouses could not discover the ancient bloodline and also could not see the bloodline grade, let alone know how to resolve it. Hence, the Ning clan invited countless divine doctors one after another and found many Divine Lord powerhouses, but it was all to no avail. Even a peak Divine Lord would be helpless against it. Unless a God King came personally, they could discover the problem and resolve it. However, the entire Great Yan Empire did not have a God King. In the vast North Heaven region, there should be God King powerhouses existing. But that kind of realm powerhouse was not what the Ning clan could come into contact with. Even the Bloodfire Divine Kingdom did not have the qualifications to come into contact with them. It was precisely because of this reason that the Ning clan bloodline's Heavenly Slayer became an incurable disease. Fortunately, the Ning clan encountered Ji Tianqing. This human race Divine Lord of mysterious origins was precisely a former God King powerhouse. Furthermore, he was the most powerful peak God King. Even though his cultivation realm had not recovered to the God King level, his experience were still there. However, with his experience, knowledge, he was able to see some clues with his God's eye mystic art. As the saying went, those who knew it would not find it difficult, but those who did not know it would not. To a Divine Lord, Heavenly Slayer was an incurable disease. To a God King, it was just a conflict and rejection caused by the mixing of two king-level bloodlines. As long as he consumed divine pills and medicine to recuperate and cultivated the ancient God blood refinement art, he could remove the ancient race bloodline. There would be no problem if he only retained the Heaven's Fury Divine Ape bloodline. Moreover, Ning Xiyuan's bloodline would be even purer. His talent and potential would be further stimulated, and he would soon break through to become a divine lord. His future achievements would be limitless. To Ji Tianqing, this was just a small matter. But to the Ning clan, it was a change of fate that would benefit the future generations. It was a great gift. Chapter 2949. To Ji Tianqing's relief, the refining process went smoothly. In just 3 months, 6 ancient god blood refining elixirs and 12 sets of medicine were all refined. After the elixirs came out of the furnace, they shone brightly and surged with divine power. It was indeed a monarch-level high-grade divine elixir with extraordinary effects. After 1,000 years, this is my first time refining a monarch-level divine elixir without any accidents. At least I didn't forget my refining experience. Ji Tianqing put away the 9th heaven divine cauldron with satisfaction, took the 6 divine elixirs and 12 sets of medicine, and left the tower. 3 months passed in the distorted space, but only 2 days passed in the outside world. Ji Tianqing walked out of the secret room and said to the guard at the door, "Go and inform Miss Ning that the elixirs have been refined and ask her to come see me. By the way, this matter must be kept secret. Don't let anyone know for the time being." The silver-armored guard hesitated for a moment, then lowered his voice and said, "Please forgive me, young Master Tianqing, but I dare not send the message." Ji Tianqing frowned. "Why?" The silver-armored guard explained in a low voice, "The Patriarch has ordered that Miss is not allowed to come to Pine Tree Courtyard for 5 days. Why? Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows, vaguely feeling that something was wrong. The silver-armored guard bowed with some fear and said, "Forgive me, young Master Tianqing, but I don't know." Ji Tianqing looked at him with sharp eyes and asked in a dignified tone, "You don't know, or you don't dare to say it?" This. The silver-armored guard didn't know how to answer. Ji Tianqing was even more sure that there was a problem, so he said in a gentle tone, "What is the reason? Just tell me, I will keep it a secret for you. Even if the Patriarch blames me, I will bear the responsibility and will not involve you." After getting his guarantee, the silver-armored guard was relieved and his heart calmed down a lot. The cause of this matter was that you and Miss went into the secret room last time and stayed for a long time before coming out. When Miss left Pine Tree Courtyard, her clothes were untidy, her hair was messy, and her face was a little rosy. Several guards and maids in the courtyard saw it and talked about it in secret, thinking that you and Miss. Later on, the news spread throughout the residence, and everyone knew about it. Not only were the servants secretly discussing this matter, but even the disciples of the clan were also discussing this matter. When the family head heard about this, he was furious and sent someone to look for you. But since you are in seclusion, this matter can be dropped. Later on, when the head of the family found out the truth, he gave the order to severely punish the people who started and spread the rumors. The 4 guards and maidservants who had spread the rumors were all punished and killed in public. The dozen or so servants and maids who spread the rumor were also severely punished and expelled from the Ning mansion. After the Patriarch announced the truth, he gave an order. If anyone dares to discuss this matter or leak the news again, they will be severely punished. The silver-armored guard was also very honest. He told Ji Tianqing the whole story in detail. This was also because of Ji Tianqing's noble status, mysterious background, and kind personality. The silver-armored guard was filled with respect. He only dared to reveal everything after obtaining the other party's guarantee. If it were anyone else, the silver-armored guard wouldn't have dared to speak so bluntly. "I see." Ji Tianqing suddenly understood, but he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. When she left the Pine Tree Courtyard, I felt that something was wrong and wanted to remind her. I didn't expect that it would cause a misunderstanding. Fortunately, the head of the Ning family asked the truth in time. Otherwise, even if I jumped into the sea, I wouldn't be able to clear my name. I would be a scapegoat for no reason. The silver-armored guard saw that he wasn't angry and didn't have any intention of flaring up. He couldn't help but feel relieved. At the same time, he admired him even more. After hesitating for a moment, the silver-armored guard whispered, "Young master, this subordinate will say something overstepping my boundaries. The feelings that the head of the family and the eldest miss have for you, we as servants have seen it." Even though this was just a misunderstanding, Lin Fan had no idea what was going on. But in everyone's mind, you and the eldest miss are a perfect match. A talented man and a beautiful woman, a match made in heaven. Without waiting for him to finish, Ji Tianqing glared at him, "Shut up. Is this something you should worry about?" The silver-armored guard hurriedly shut his mouth and stood respectfully in wait. Ji Tianqing waved his hand, indicating for him to withdraw. He didn't let him send the message. In any case, the pine tree courtyard was only 1,000 feet away from Ning Xiyuan's residence. He simply released his divine sense and found Ning Xiyuan in her boudoir. He directly transmitted his voice to her, "The pill has been refined. You can come over and take it. However, you'd better come over quietly. Don't let anyone find out." Ning Xiyuan was resting in her boudoir. Her big blue eyes were looking at the sky outside the window. She was in a daze. No one knew what she was thinking. Ji Tianqing's voice suddenly sounded in her mind, giving her a fright. Soon after, she came back to her senses and murmured with surprise, "It hasn't even been 3 days and he's already refined the pill. Isn't this too fast? Could it be fake medicine?" Although she said this, she was still very happy. She was very excited and expectant. She immediately got out of bed and called for a maid to help her dress up. Her personal maid was secretly surprised. The eldest miss had always been valiant and rarely dressed up. What happened today? Could it be that she was going to attend a banquet? Ning Xiyuan didn't say anything, so the maid didn't dare to ask. Soon after, Ning Xiyuan put on her exquisite makeup and left her boudoir in an invisible state. She rushed to the pine tree courtyard. Even though it was evening, there were many people in the residence and it was quite lively. However, she concealed her figure and presence. No one discovered her and she entered the pine tree courtyard. Only when she entered the secret room and saw Ji Tianqing did she remove her invisible state. "Young Master Tianqing, you've refined the pill so quickly." Ning Xiyuan looked at him with bright eyes. She was overflowing with joy. Ji Tianqing nodded slightly. He took out a dazzling golden pill and a multicolored ball of light and handed them to her. "This is the ancient god blood refining pill and the divine heart purifying soup. After you take it, I'll teach you the ancient god blood refining art. Cultivate it for 36 cycles and you'll see initial results." Ning Xiyuan was surprised. She took the golden pill and looked at it carefully. She saw that the pill veins were fine and contained the laws of the divine Tao. The golden light was dazzling and the divine power was surging. She was even more surprised. She exclaimed in disbelief, "This is a monarch-level high-grade divine pill. Are you a high-level divine lord?" Ji Tianqing just kept smiling and didn't say anything. It was common knowledge in the divine world that only high-level divine lords could refine high-grade monarch-level divine pills. If Ning Xiyuan knew that he was only a low-level divine lord, who knew how shocked she would be. Ning Xiyuan held the multicolored ball of light and looked at it carefully. She saw that the multicolored ball of light was wrapped in a purplish-red medicinal soup. It was like a grape wine. Ning Xiyuan could clearly feel that there were dozens of medicinal herbs in the medicinal soup. It emitted a special power and aura. Although she hadn't taken it yet, she dispelled her previous doubts when she saw this divine pill and medicine. She was full of confidence in Ji Tianqing. Maybe he really has shocking medical skills. It's just that he didn't show it to others before. Since he's so confident, this medicine is most likely effective. With this thought in mind, she didn't hesitate to take the divine pill and medicine, then sat down on the jade bed to meditate. Chapter 2950. Ji Tianqing waved his right hand and shot a ball of five-colored divine light into Ning Xiyuan's forehead. The divine light contained the secret manual of the ancient god blood refinement art. In order to make it easier for Ning Xiyuan to cultivate directly, Ji Tianqing added detailed annotations inside to make it easier to understand. Ning Xiyuan was also smart. After receiving that ball of divine light, she grasped the essentials of the ancient god blood refinement art and started cultivating. Ji Tianqing watched from the side to prevent any mishaps from happening to her. The result was out of his expectations. Ning Xiyuan's cultivation was very smooth. In a short 2 hours, she understood the essentials of the art and smoothly circulated one cycle. Next, she accelerated her circulation and repeatedly cultivated the ancient god blood refinement art. According to Ji Tianqing, as long as she circulated 36 cycles, she would see initial results. But she already felt that the divine pills and medicines she took were taking effect in her body. This made her confidence double, and her trust in Ji Tianqing also gradually deepened. She was looking forward to what kind of scene it would be to completely resolve Heavenly Slayer after taking 6 divine pills and 12 medicines. Time passed quickly. Unknowingly, a night passed. Ning Xiyuan's circulation speed became faster and faster. In the beginning, it took 2 hours to circulate one cycle. Then, it took 1 hour to circulate one cycle. Now, it only took 30 minutes to complete one cycle. Such speed shocked Ji Tianqing and he found it hard to believe. Previously, it was me who underestimated the talents of the world. I didn't expect that a genius like Ning Xiyuan could also appear in the small blood flame divine kingdom. The heavenly rage divine apes king-class bloodline indeed made the Ning family's descendants outstanding and terrifying. If she wasn't troubled by Heavenly Slayer, she probably would have broken through to the Divine Lord realm long ago and be on par with my current strength, right? Seeing that Ning Xiyuan's circulation was stable and there wouldn't be any mistakes, Ji Tianqing sat at the side and meditated to adjust his breath. After waiting for another day, Ning Xiyuan successfully circulated 36 cycles and ended her cultivation. When she opened her eyes, her face was full of joy. She couldn't hold back the excitement in her heart and muttered to herself, "It worked. The burning pain in my blood has indeed lessened by a lot." Heavenly Slayer's existence caused her bloodline to burn like it was on fire every time she cultivated or used a divine art. Even in the face of a life and death crisis, she couldn't use 100% of her power. But now, that threat had been eliminated. How could she not be excited by such an immediate effect? Ji Tianqing also opened his eyes and used his God's Eye mystic technique to observe her for a while. Then, he smiled and nodded, "Her symptoms are indeed much better. My efforts were not in vain." As he spoke, he took out another 5 divine pills and 11 medicinal pellets and presented them to Ning Xiyuan. "These are the rest of the pills. Take 1 medicine every 2 days and 1 divine pill every 4 days. After taking the pill, you must circulate your qi for 36 cycles. Heavenly Slayer should be completely removed by the time you finish using these medicines." Previously, Ning Xiyuan still had doubts about these words. But now, she trusted them completely. She hurriedly took the pills and carefully accepted them. Then, she bowed deeply to Ji Tianqing. "Young Master Tianqing, thank you for giving me these medicines and helping me resolve the pain of Heavenly Slayer. Such kindness is akin to rebirth. No matter where you are in the future, the Ning family will always be your most reliable ally. No matter when, as long as you need the Ning family's help, just say the word and the Ning family will." Ning Xiyuan sincerely expressed her gratitude. However, Ji Tianqing waved his hand and interrupted her. "No need to be so serious. No one can predict what will happen in the future. Has the Ning family head already told you that I'm about to leave?" Ning Xiyuan nodded and said with some reluctance, "I know that you want to go to the royal capital to participate in the divine blood ceremony. But there's still a month before the ceremony starts. During this time, you can stay in the Ning family. There's no need. I have other matters to attend to. Ji Tianqing shook his head and reminded, I will be leaving in 2 days. Remember to take the medicine and cultivate on time. Before the divine blood ceremony starts, you will definitely be able to resolve Heavenly Slayer and break through to the Divine Lord realm. After Heavenly Slayer is removed, your bloodline will become even purer. Your talent and potential will be fully stimulated, and your strength will progress even faster. Ning Xiyuan found it hard to believe. She exclaimed in shock, there is actually such an effect. This is too miraculous. In the past, the Ning family's solution was to merge the bloodline power of others. This could suppress Heavenly Slayer, but the Heavenly Rage Divine Ape bloodline would also be suppressed and affected. Therefore, after resolving Heavenly Slayer, the Ning family disciples' talent and potential would decrease. However, the pills that Ji Tianqing refined could remove the bloodlines of ancient races and retain only the Heavenly Rage Divine Ape bloodline. This was the perfect solution. While Ning Xiyuan was excited, another idea popped up in her mind. She hesitated for a moment before saying stammeringly, Sir Tianqing, for you to be able to refine medicinal pills for me, I'm already immensely grateful. I know that perhaps this request of mine is somewhat overboard. Not waiting for her to finish talking, Ji Tianqing already said with a slight smile, don't worry. The formulas to refine the ancient god blood refining pill and divine heart pure karma soup, I've already written them in the jade slip. Including the refining method and essentials, I've also recorded them down. The Ning family only needs to find a high-ranked divine lord realm alchemist, and they will be able to successfully refine the medicinal pills. Finished talking, he took out a golden jade slip from his ring and handed it to Ning Xiyuan. Ning Xiyuan was immediately stunned, her eyes staring at him blankly, both eyes covered in a layer of mist. She was pleasantly surprised, and also very shocked and touched. Originally, she just wanted to ask about the medicinal pills formula. She would record it down herself, then let the Ning family study it properly. But she did not expect that Ji Tianqing actually considered it so thoroughly. Truly meticulous. Such care, she had never felt from any man before. At this moment, a voice reverberated in her heart, and there was only one thought in her mind. Ning Xiyuan, oh Ning Xiyuan, what virtue and ability do you have, to actually be able to meet a lucky star like young Master Tianqing? This is the only chance in this life. If you miss it now, you will spend the rest of your life in regret and regret. She instinctively opened her mouth, wanting to tell Ji Tianqing that such kindness would benefit the Ning family for generations to come. Even if she devoted herself to him, it would be hard to repay him. From today onwards, I am willing to follow by young master's side. Even if I am a slave or a maid, I will repay you. But Ji Tianqing looked at her with a calm expression, and said in a gentle tone, don't be in a daze, and don't say any more words of thanks. Accept the pill formula. Meeting is fate. In the future, just be more tolerant of Qi. Finished talking, he handed the jade slip to Ning Xiyuan's hands, turned around, and left. Ning Xiyuan held the jade slip in her hand and could no longer control it. 2 teardrops fell from her eyes. She did not know why. At this moment, she felt Ji Tianqing's broad-mindedness and magnanimity, and only felt ashamed of her inferiority. She was more and more certain that Ji Tianqing was not a fish in a pond, and would soon soar into the sky. Not to mention the Tianxue County and the Ning family, even the Bloodfire Divine Kingdom would absolutely not be able to keep him. His future and journey would definitely belong to the Tianbei region, and even the entire boundless heaven continent. Chapter 2951. Ning Xiyuan left the pine tree courtyard. She was still invisible and left quietly without being discovered by anyone. After leaving the pine tree courtyard, she didn't return to her residence. She went to see Ning Qinggang immediately to share her joy and excitement with her father. It wasn't just her calamity that was about to be completely eliminated. Even the entire Ning family wouldn't be troubled by calamity in the future. The jade slip in her hand could change the fate of the Ning family. It could even allow the Ning family to fly into the sky and look down on the blood-flame divine nation. Ji Tianqing returned to the study. As soon as he sat down, a silver-armored guard came to report. Young Master Tianqing, someone outside the residence sent a secret letter for you to personally open. Then, the guard placed a letter in front of him. Ji Tianqing gestured for him to leave and picked up the letter to examine it. The words, to Tianqing, were written on the cover. It was neat and strong. He tore open the letter. There was a piece of luxurious purple-gold rice paper that emitted a faint fragrance. There were only 2 sentences on the letter. Tonight, at the Maplewoods Villa outside the city, I'll be waiting for you to come and settle our grudges. If you continue to be a coward, you're not worthy of competing with me. Get out of the Ning family. Tuanmu Xiong. After reading it, Ji Tianqing's palm lit up with divine flames and burned the letter. His lips curled into a contemptuous sneer as he muttered, "It's really this idiot. Last time, he was hiding his head but showing his tail, so I stood him up. This time, he learned his lesson and directly signed his name. He was afraid that I wouldn't go, so he must have set up an ambush at the Maplewoods Villa." Ji Tianqing knew that Tuanmu Xiong was narrow-minded and would definitely plot against him. Logically speaking, he should have ignored this secret letter. Knowing that there was an ambush at the Maplewoods Villa, he shouldn't have gone. However, a small character like Tuanmu Xiong was just a brat who was still wet behind the ears and his eyes. He didn't have any tricks up his sleeve and couldn't do anything. Even if he set up an ambush at the Maplewoods Villa, what threat could there be? Moreover, although this brat was stupid, he was still a prince. However, he was the crown prince after all, and his status was rather special. If he didn't use a thunderous method to intimidate them, they would continue to pester him in the future. Therefore, Ji Tianqing decided to make a trip there. He also wanted to see what Tuanmu Air was up to. He turned his head to look out the window. Night had already fallen. Calculating the time, it was already Su-Shi. Therefore, Ji Tianqing got up and walked out of Qingsong courtyard. After leaving the Ning mansion, he rushed to the East City Gate. Previously, when Tuanmu Air sent him a secret letter, he had already checked the location of Maplewoods Villa. On the outskirts of the eastern part of the city, there was a lone peak about 4,000 miles away. The lone peak was covered with red maple trees and was rather conspicuous. Ji Tianqing flew all the way, and in less than 100 breaths of time, he arrived at the peak of the lone peak. Standing in the night sky, he looked down at the lonely peak and the Maplewoods Manor at the peak. Under the cover of his divine sense, he could see everything in the manor. It was clear where people were hiding and where there were divine formations and traps. Ha! Just these few people gave him so much courage. Ji Tianqing smiled disdainfully after he figured out the situation. Swoosh! He descended from the sky and landed at the entrance of the manor. A black-robed old man was lying on top of a 3-feet-tall rockery, pretending to be asleep. When he sensed Ji Tianqing's arrival, he suddenly woke up and opened his cold eyes. It's him. He really came. But I've been monitoring the East City Gate. Why didn't I find him? The black-robed old man was secretly shocked. He looked at Ji Tianqing cautiously and sent a voice transmission to Tuanmu Xiong, who was in the manor. "Heir, the other party is here." In the manor, in the brightly lit main hall. Tuanmu Heir was drinking wine and enjoying the service of beautiful maids. He had not been in the Ning mansion for the past few days and had been staying in the manor. After all, he had to follow the rules in the Ning mansion. He could not be unrestrained in case the father and daughter of the Ning family saw him as a joke. However, he could not stand the loneliness. Of course, he had to hide in the Maplewoods Manor to indulge in wine and women. Therefore, he only knew that Ji Tianqing and Ning Xiyuan had a rendezvous, but he did not know that the misunderstanding had been resolved. When he heard the black-robed old man's voice transmission, Duanmu Xiong's body shook, and his eyes shone brightly. Ha ha ha. That arrogant little bastard, he still came after all. When he's here, let him enter the main hall to greet me. Duanmu Xiong was pleasantly surprised, but he forgot that the black-robed old man said arrived and not came. The black-robed old man was helpless and could only send a voice transmission to remind him again. He's already at the main entrance. Duanmu Xiong finally reacted and said in shock, he's already at the main entrance. Old Hey, what are you doing? Didn't I tell you to keep an eye on the East City Gate? Why did you only report the news when he's already in front of you? The black-robed old man was silent for a moment before he explained weakly, this person's strength is unfathomable. Duanmu Xiong instinctively curled his lips and sneered disdainfully. Strong my ass. Tonight, he must kneel in front of me and beg for mercy to live. All right, let him come in. Chapter 2952. Duanmu Xiong sat up straight and tried to put on a dignified look. Even his voice was purposely low and solemn. He questioned Ji Tianqing as if he was the chief judge of the court. But Ji Tianqing only wanted to laugh when he saw him like this. Ha ha ha, Duanmu Xiong, there's a phrase called a monkey's crown. I'll give it to you. Duanmu Xiong was stunned. Although he didn't know what Ji Tianqing meant, he knew that Ji Tianqing was mocking him. Immediately, he was furious and scolded, Sinner Tianqing, do you know your crime? I represent the kingdom of God's royal family to announce your crime tonight. Why aren't you kneeling down? Ji Tianqing's expression became more and more disdainful. He shook his head and sneered, no wonder you have no status in the royal family even though you're the eldest grandson of the king. You even have to rely on the second prince and the third prince, and rely on the welfare of your parents to get a little living space. You're so stupid. You really can't be carved out of rotten wood. Nonsense. Duanmu Xiong was exposed and became more and more angry. He shouted, Bastard, I'm judging your crime. Don't change the topic. Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and said, Fine. Since you're so stupid, I'll give you some advice. Do you think the king knows about the murder of the Qingshan city lord and Princess Tianfeng? Duanmu Xiong answered without hesitation, the whole kingdom of God is under the king's control. He's a holy king. How can he not know the truth? Don't think that you can get away with it just because you did it secretly and didn't leave any evidence. Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and said, Since the king knows the truth, why didn't he order me to be arrested? Have you thought about it? This. Duanmu Xiong was at a loss for words. He frowned and thought for a while. Then, he said without confidence, maybe the king is busy and ordered people to investigate you. But those people from the warden department always do things slowly. Ji Tianqing sneered and said, It's been more than a month. Even a kid like you dares to set up a private court to judge my crime. If the king really wants to arrest me, I'm already in the capital. So, it's not that you don't want to capture me, but you can't. Why can't I? Duanmu Xiong retorted instinctively. You're lawless and arrogant. You openly killed the city lord and the infanta who were appointed by the god nation. That's a great crime that's punishable by death. Ji Tianqing sighed and said earnestly, Children don't know anything. You should watch more and learn more. Don't do childish things all day and embarrass your father. All right, that's all I have to say. Take care of yourself. Don't provoke me in the future, or else your life will be in danger. After saying this, he turned to leave. Duanmu Xiong was so childish that he didn't have any interest in talking to him, lest he insulted his intelligence. Unexpectedly, Duanmu Xiong flew into a rage from embarrassment, and he immediately stood up and said with a savage smile, Kid, you've already come here, yet you still want to leave? How naive. Do you think you can still leave in one piece tonight? Without a doubt, Duanmu Xiong was going to make things difficult for them. His face was filled with a sinister smile, and his entire body was emitting a murderous aura. Hu Lai's eyes lit up as he stared at Ji Tianqing with murderous intent. He held a treasured sword in his hand. At the same time, the old man in black who was guarding the door also appeared at the entrance of the main hall like a ghost. He held a snake-shaped short sword in each hand and blocked Ji Tianqing's way of retreat. Ji Tianqing stopped and turned around to look at Duanmu Xiong. The corners of his mouth curled up into a disdainful sneer. Since you can't reason with me, you want to use force. Do you think you can make me stay with these useless people? Duanmu Xiong naturally wouldn't be frightened by him. He shouted confidently, "Kid, you're still so stubborn even when you're about to die. I'd like to see if you can still be so arrogant when you're captured and your life is in danger." Ji Tianqing smiled and said, "How can a person be so stupid? Since you know that I killed the Infanta Tianfeng and the few divine lords, how can you still be so arrogant? Then how dare you rely on these pieces of trash to keep me here?" Duanmu Xiong sneered and said, "I'm sure that no matter how arrogant you are, you won't dare to kill me. Moreover, I've already set up an inescapable net here. You can't escape. Moreover, you killed the Infanta Tianfeng and the divine lords of the 5 big families by means of conspiracy. Maybe you have the help of some experts." Ji Tianqing was speechless. He flicked his index fingers and said with a smile, "Since you're so confident, then let them all come out. I'll kill them all together." Duanmu Xiong didn't notice anything unusual. The old man in black who was guarding the door saw Ji Tianqing flicking his finger and was immediately alarmed. He vaguely felt that Ji Tianqing released an invisible force that spread in the main hall. "Bastard, what are you doing?" The old man in black stared at him and asked in a deep voice. Ji Tianqing ignored him. Duanmu Xiong and Hu Lai were confused. They didn't know what the old man in black meant. At this time, Ji Tianqing sneered again. "Duanmu Xiong, what are you waiting for? The 4 scoundrels hiding in the secret room. Tell them to come out. I'll let you see with your own eyes how the divine lords you rely on can't even withstand a single blow. I only need to move my finger and they'll die on the spot." Duanmu Xiong was shocked and disbelief flashed in his eyes. How does he know that there are 4 divine lords in the manor and they're all in the secret room? Qing Shan and Lu Shui are my servants. He'll know after a little investigation. However, the other 2 divine sovereigns came quietly. "Only I know about it." "That's right. Other than Qing Shan and Lu Shui. 2 middle-level divine lords came to the Maplewoods Manor the night before. Duanmu Xiong had decided to borrow those 2 divine lords from a force at the last minute. For that, he had paid a huge price. He had wanted to catch Ji Tianqing by surprise. But he didn't expect that Ji Tianqing had already noticed the 2 divine lords. How could he not be shocked? But he calmed down immediately and ordered, "Come out and take down this arrogant man." As his voice fell, 2 balls of black fog appeared in the northeast corner of the main hall. Swish! Swish! 2 figures appeared in the corner of the main hall, drifting like black fog. One of them was 20 feet tall and as sturdy as a tower. It was Divine Lord Qing Shan. The other person was petite and 6 feet tall. It was an old woman with a hunched back. It was Divine Lord Lu Shui. At the entrance of the main hall, 2 figures appeared on the left and right sides of the black-robed elder. One was a skinny man with white hair in a blood-red robe. The other was a brawny man in black armor who was as fat as a ball. These 4 divine lords, together with Old He, Hu Lai, and Duanmu Xiong, made a total of 7 divine lords. Also, there were a few monarch-level divine arrays in the manor that could greatly increase everyone's combat power and suppress Ji Tianqing. This was the source of Duanmu Xiong's confidence and fearlessness. The trap had been set. Duanmu Xiong waited for Ji Tianqing to kneel and beg for mercy. Chapter 2953. Swoosh! Suddenly, the Maple Woods Manor was lit up by a ray of light. Everything within a 10-mile radius was covered by the colorful light and isolated from the outside world. The first divine array was activated. The Maple Woods Manor was sealed and no one outside could know what was happening inside. Swoosh! Swoosh! Then, the second and third divine arrays were activated. One of the two divine arrays was used to suppress Ji Tianqing and weaken his combat power. The other one was a soul-sealing array which could suppress his divine soul and disrupt his divine consciousness and mind. The three divine arrays had their own uses, but they were all used to kill Ji Tianqing without being detected by others. The divine arrays were activated and the entire manor was illuminated by the colorful divine light. Ji Tianqing, who was in the main hall, immediately felt a boundless, formless pressure descending from above. No matter how powerful he was, he would be affected and had to use his divine power to resist. The four Sir Gods, Hu Lai, and Old He kept accumulating their divine power and preparing their strongest attack. As long as Duanmu Xiong gave the order, they would kill Ji Tianqing. However, Duanmu Xiong was confident of victory and was determined to win. He felt that he was in control of the situation and that he had the power to kill Ji Tianqing. Under such circumstances, he was not in a hurry to kill Ji Tianqing. Before killing him, he would humiliate him and make him kneel and beg for mercy. Only then would he be able to vent his hatred. Tianqing, the divine array that I have set up has been activated. You must be feeling very uncomfortable now and can't use your strength, right? Even your divine soul is suppressed and your consciousness is starting to blur, right? Under such circumstances, how much combat power can you use? Duanmu Xiong sat boldly on the throne and looked down at Ji Tianqing. His words were filled with complacency. It's not too late for you to regret now. I will give you one last chance. Kneel down and kowtow to this prince to admit your wrongs, and beg this prince to forgive you. Without waiting for Duanmu Xiong to finish, Ji Tianqing said with a disdainful expression, "Frog in a well, remember what you said. I advise you to think carefully about how to save your life when you kneel down and beg for mercy later." Duanmu Xiong flew into a rage and said with a hideous smile, "Little bastard, you're really tired of living. You won't shed tears until you see the coffin." He waved his hand and gave the order to the few Sir Gods. "Attack together, take him down. Don't kill him by accident. I still want to humiliate him." Hearing Duanmu Xiong's order, Qing Shan and Lu Shui acknowledged his order. They immediately unleashed their full divine power, brandishing their swords and sabers as they charged toward Ji Tianqing. As he spoke, black light gushed out from his palms, turning into two vortexes that enveloped the green mountain and the green water. That pitch-black, ice-cold divine light also contained a blazing white brilliance. It was the power of the heaven-mending orb. Soon, Qing Shan and Lu Shui's flesh, blood, soul, and cultivation were devoured by the heaven-mending orb. Their bodies and lifetimes' worth of cultivation had turned into a vast and mighty power, and were stored in the heaven-mending orb. Even their godheads were swallowed by the heaven-mending orb and temporarily sealed. Duanmu Xiong watched as Qing Shan and Lu Shui were swallowed by the vortexes, and not even a trace of dregs was left. He was so scared that his liver and guts were torn apart. His mind was in a mess, and his heart was terrified to the extreme. He only wanted to turn around and run away. But his body was stiff, and his divine power was sealed. He could only sit and enjoy the massacre. He had no choice but to watch. Ji Tianqing ignored him. After dealing with Qing Shan and Lu Shui, he walked towards the two unknown monarchs. One was a skinny man with a head full of white hair, and the other was a brawny man in black armor who was round like a ball. At this moment, the man in the blood-red robe knelt on the ground. His white hair drooped down, and blood kept dripping from his mouth and nose. He endured the pain without making a sound, and silently circulated his martial arts to resist the corrosion of the poison. Ji Tianqing walked in front of him and looked down at him from above. He asked, "A middle-level monarch of the sixth heaven realm, and you have cultivated for more than 10,000 years. With your strength and innate ability, you were able to resist this monarch's poison and still retain 40% of your strength. Why do you only circulate your martial arts to resist the poison and not attack?" The man in the blood-red robe still had his head lowered, and his voice was hoarse and low. "I have long heard that young Master Tianqing's martial arts are unfathomable, and his methods are strange and ruthless. Tonight, I have experienced it, and it is indeed terrifying. Since young Master Tianqing can invisibly poison us, we will not be able to defeat him. Then we will definitely not be young Master's match. If we forcefully attack, we will also be seeking our own deaths. Moreover, we are only hired by Duanmu Xiong, and not his subordinates. How can we work for him?" Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and sneered. "You are a smart man." After that, he turned his head and glanced at Duanmu Xiong. Duanmu Xiong was shocked, and he shouted with grief and indignation, "Thousand-star extermination. What do you mean? Are you going to go against your superior's orders, betray me, and surrender to him?" The man in the blood-red robe called Thousand-Star Extermination said indifferently, "We are just assassins who work for money. We only care about money and life. Since the mission has failed, of course, we will prioritize our lives. You are not following the rules." Duanmu Xiong was so angry that his eyebrows were twitching, and his eyes were bloodshot. Thousand-Star Extermination ignored him and said to Ji Tianqing, "Young Master Tianqing, your martial arts and skills are unfathomable, and I am very impressed. I surrender, and I hope that young Master Tianqing will be merciful and spare my life. From today onwards, I will not dare to offend young Master Tianqing. Wherever you are, I will retreat thousands of miles away, and I will not dare to offend you." After that, he gave a look to the brawny man in black armor not far away. The brawny man in black armor also lowered his head to Ji Tianqing, and said in a low voice, "I am Thousand-Star Extermination. Tonight, I have witnessed young Master Tianqing's methods, and I accept my defeat wholeheartedly. I surrender, and I hope that young Master will be merciful." Ji Tianqing did not comment, and asked with a frown, "To be able to hire middle-level divine lords as assassins, the force you belong to is not simple. Tell me, your true identities." Thousand-Star Extermination immediately bowed and said, "Please forgive us, young Master Tianqing. Since we are assassins, we cannot reveal our identities, or else in the future." Before he could finish, Ji Tianqing sent him flying with a kick. He flew 100 feet in the air, smashed into the wall of the main hall, and rolled on the ground. Cough, cough, Thousand-Star Extermination was covered in blood, and he coughed violently. The injuries to his internal organs and meridians were even more serious, and they were almost completely destroyed. Ji Tianqing sneered and said, "This is your attitude of surrendering? You don't even want to reveal your identity, and you still want to live?" The brawny man in black armor's eyes spat fire, and he growled in humiliation, "Young Master Tianqing. We respect you, and please respect our identities and duties. We surrendered to you because we don't want to fight to the death. Don't think that we are really afraid of you. The force behind us is not something you can provoke." Ha ha ha. Ji Tianqing laughed contemptuously and said, "In that case, you can die obediently." After that, he lifted his foot and stomped on the brawny man in black armor's head. The brawny man in black armor's expression changed dramatically, and he quickly teleported to dodge. Chapter 2955. Bang! With a muffled sound, blood splattered everywhere. The brawny man's head exploded and he died on the spot. The headless body fell to the ground and stopped moving after a few twitches. The godhead covered in a layer of green poisonous gas flew out of the blood rain and escaped. After all, this man was a sixth heaven middle divine emperor. Even if his body was destroyed and his godhead was corroded by the poison, he could still hold on for a while. He could still retain 30% or 40% of his strength, which was enough for him to escape. However, he met Ji Tianqing. If Ji Tianqing wanted to kill him, he was destined to die. Swoosh! The godhead flew out of the hall and was about to cross the courtyard. All of a sudden, Ji Tianqing teleported over and blocked his path. He waved his sleeves and a bright golden light swept out and enveloped the godhead. No matter how hard Thousand Star Killer struggled, he could not escape from the golden light and was immediately captured. Knowing that he could not escape and sensing Ji Tianqing's murderous intent, Thousand Star Killer quickly admitted defeat. "Young Master Tianqing, please spare my life. I'll tell you everything." Ji Tianqing said coldly, "No need. Die in peace." As soon as he finished his words, he crushed the godhead into pieces. Thousand Star Killer died tragically without even a chance to regret. Ji Tianqing returned to the hall with the godhead fragment in his hand. He originally thought that the blood-robed man, Thousand Star Extermination, would definitely take the opportunity to escape. However, he did not expect that Thousand Star Killer was still in the hall, sitting cross-legged on the ground to resist the poison. Ji Tianqing flew in front of him and asked again, "Why didn't you run away?" Thousand Star Killer smiled bitterly and said, "If I ran away, I would definitely die. Only by not running away can I have a chance to live." Before Ji Tianqing could ask him anything, he said, "Thousand Star Killer and I are Purple Star assassins from the Evil Blood Palace. Our positions are equal to that of the elders. Crown Prince Duanmu paid 10 billion to hire me and Thousand Star Kill to ambush you here." Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and said, "It's the Evil Blood Palace. One of the 6 great sects, the largest intelligence and assassination organization in the Blood Flame Divine Kingdom." He had investigated the 6 major sects a long time ago and knew a little about them. The Baleful Blood Palace Master was the most mysterious and unfathomable. He called himself the Baleful Blood Star. The Vice Palace Master normally oversaw the general situation, and her title was Purple Fiend Star. Under the 2 Palace Masters, there were several elders. They were all mid-level divine lords and were known as the Purple Star Assassins. Below Purple Star were the lesser divine lords, known as the Golden Star Assassins. Below Gold Star were Silver Star Assassins. They were all 7th level Heavenly God realm and above. Ji Tianqing stared at the Thousand Star Annihilation and sneered, "The Evil Blood Palace is really cheap. You only need 10 billion divine stones to assassinate me." Thousand Star Extermination smiled bitterly and said, "Young Master Tianqing, you must be joking. This is already a rare sky-high price. It hasn't appeared for many years. If someone wanted to assassinate Duanmu Crown Prince, they only needed to pay 1 billion. It's just that no one wanted to assassinate him because of his special status." Ji Tianqing frowned and said contemptuously, "You mean that guy is worth 1/10 of what I am? Humph. You really think too highly of him." Thousand Star Annihilation smiled apologetically and said, "Young Master, please don't be angry. Duanmu Crown Prince is stupid and foppish. If I had known that you were so powerful, I wouldn't have accepted it even if you offered 100 billion or even 1,000,000,000,000 divine stones. You know your place." Ji Tianqing waved his hand indifferently and said, "You can go now. Remember to tell your master not to provoke me in the future. Otherwise, I don't mind destroying the Evil Blood Palace." Thousand Star Annihilation hesitated for a moment and said, "I'll pass on your words word for word. I'll also report what happened tonight and persuade the Vice Palace Master not to do anything to you. But I have to remind you that the Vice Palace Master is proud and arrogant. For the sake of the Evil Blood Palace's reputation and dignity, he may double his revenge. His words only touched on the point. Ji Tianqing understood what he meant. He sneered and said, "It doesn't matter. Just do what you should do. If anyone from the Evil Blood Palace dares to offend me again, I'll kill them all. Including you." Thousand Star Annihilation shook his head and said with a wry smile, "Young master, your poison has destroyed most of my foundation. When I return to the Evil Blood Palace, I must practice in seclusion for more than 100 years to recover. Moreover, I'd rather disobey your order than be your enemy. Then go." Ji Tianqing waved his sleeve and shot out a golden light. Thousand Star Annihilation flew out of the Maplewoods Manor and landed outside the gate. Thousand Star Annihilation landed steadily and looked back at the manor that was sealed by the array. His eyes flashed with horror. He just waved his sleeve and sent me out. Didn't this mean that the 3 divine formations were useless against him and couldn't trap him at all? My God! This person is not only powerful and proficient in poison, but also in array doctrine. It's better for the Evil Blood Palace not to provoke such a terrifying expert. That idiot Duanmu Xiong has killed Thousand Star Annihilation. Thousand Star Annihilation was shocked. He muttered a few words in a low voice and quickly disappeared into the darkness. Only Ji Tianqing and Duanmu Xiong were left in the hall. Ji Tianqing had killed 5 of the 6 divine emperors. Thousand Star Annihilation was smart enough to take advantage of the situation and survive. Seeing Ji Tianqing kill the divine emperors like killing chickens, Duanmu Xiong felt his blood freeze and almost wet his pants. Now, Ji Tianqing was walking toward him with killing intent all over his body. Duanmu Xiong sat stiffly and lowered his head in horror. He did not dare to look directly at Ji Tianqing's expression. Don't kill me. I'm the crown prince of the Wang family, the eldest grandson of the monarch, you can't kill me." Feeling Ji Tianqing's murderous aura and divine might, he trembled in fear and cried out with a trembling voice. As Ji Tianqing came closer, Duanmu Xiong tried his best to curl up like a frightened quail. Ji Tianqing stood in front of him and looked at him with a half-smile. "You're the only one who treats your identity as the crown prince like a treasure. Actually, in my eyes, you're no different from dust and grass." "No. It's not like that." Duanmu Xiong shook his head desperately and cried out, "This is the Bloodfire Kingdom, and the monarch is my grandfather. He's a top elite. No matter how arrogant you are, you can't kill me. Otherwise, Grandpa Monarch will cut you into pieces." He. Ji Tianqing sneered disdainfully. "Even if I want to kill the entire royal family and destroy the Bloodfire Kingdom, it's just a matter of a thought for me. Give up your futile resistance and sincerely repent and beg for mercy. That's your only chance to live." Then, he grabbed Duanmu Xiong and threw him into the hall. He sat boldly on the throne and looked at Duanmu Xiong with a smile. Duanmu Xiong suddenly discovered that the poison in his body had disappeared. His stiff body regained its freedom, and the sealed divine power began to flow again. Therefore, he rushed to the door in ecstasy, bursting with a strong desire to survive, and ran away as fast as he could. It was a pity. Just as he rushed to the entrance of the main hall, the 2 bronze doors slammed shut. A giant golden palm appeared out of nowhere and dragged him back to the main hall, forcing him to kneel on the ground. End of chapter. Update soonest, new August 1st Chinese network, A.M. Chapter 2956. Plop. The giant golden palm pressed down on Duanmu Xiong, making him kneel heavily on the ground. 2 craters were formed on the brick ground, and dense cracks appeared on the surface. Duanmu Xiong's knees also sank into the brick. He was extremely humiliated, and he roared with grief and indignation, "Bastard! How dare you humiliate me like this? You humiliated the king's descendant, which is the same as humiliating the entire royal family. You want to become the enemy of the entire blood flame divine kingdom." Ji Tianqing said with an indifferent expression, what are you screaming for? Are you still hoping that someone will come to save you? Don't forget, the entire manor is sealed by your array. Even if you shout until your throat is hoarse, there won't be a third person to hear you. Duanmu Xiong immediately withered. He lowered his head, and his heart was filled with struggle and hesitation, silently weighing the pros and cons. Forget it, a wise man knows better than to fight when the odds are against him. I'll lower my head and apologize to him first, then I'll think about what to do after I escape this calamity. As long as I can survive, I'll definitely report this to Grandpa King and tear him into pieces. At that time, I'll return the humiliation tonight 10 times, no, 100 times. After making up his mind, he slowly raised his head, and stared at Ji Tianqing with red eyes. He gritted his teeth and said, "You win, you win." Saying that you win meant that he admitted defeat. But Ji Tianqing frowned and said, "And then?" Duanmu Xiong fiercely glared at him, and then he endured the humiliation and said, "I admit that you're very strong, but I underestimated you, so I made such a stupid mistake. I hope that you'll be magnanimous and spare me this time for Grandpa King's sake." After saying these words, Duanmu Xiong seemed to have lost all his strength, gasping for breath, and his spirit was dispirited. He had always thought highly of himself, and had been spoiled and flattered since he was young. To be able to say such soft words was already the limit, and it made him feel extremely humiliated. However, Ji Tianqing disdainfully sneered and said, "I said you're stupid, and you're really stupid to the extreme. 1,000-star extermination has already set a very good example for you, why can't you learn it? Forget it, if I don't give you an unforgettable lesson, you won't know what fear is. Even now, you're still thinking that you should endure for now. After tonight's calamity, you'll definitely take revenge on me 10-fold, no, 100-fold. Duanmu Xiong was stunned for a moment. He averted his gaze, not daring to meet his eyes. Ji Tianqing flicked his finger expressionlessly and ignited the poison again. Suddenly, Duanmu Xiong's face turned green. He could not help but spit out a mouthful of black blood. PFFF. What was even more terrifying was that his internal organs and bloodline felt as if they were on fire, and he felt a heart-wrenching pain. Duanmu Xiong was in so much pain that he wished he was dead. He rolled on the ground and let out a miserable howl. Ji Tianqing remained unmoved and looked at him indifferently. After Duanmu Xiong rolled a dozen times on the ground, he suddenly realized that there was a large patch of black blood staining his robe below his waist. He lifted his robe in shock, only to find that his lower abdomen had already rotted, and foul-smelling black blood was gushing out. His tool to carry on his ancestral line had disappeared. All that was left was a bloody hole the size of a bowl. Such a tragic blow caused him to see darkness before his eyes. He fainted in grief and anger. However, Ji Tianqing flicked his finger and shot out a stream of divine soul power to wake him up. Duanmu Xiong looked at his crotch with a disheartened expression. He cursed crazily, "Bastard! You bastard! You're so vicious!" Ji Tianqing looked at him expressionlessly and said indifferently, "Tonight, if you don't show enough sincerity and kneel before me to repent, don't even think about leaving here. Don't worry, I won't kill you, at least not tonight. But you should know that sometimes living is more painful than dying." Duanmu Xiong had already sensed the meaning of this sentence. He did not doubt that Ji Tianqing's ruthless methods could definitely make him suffer so much that he wished he was dead. Ji Tianqing added, "If you can satisfy me tonight, I'll let you go. As for the poison in your body, keep it for the time being. During this time, don't think about playing tricks and don't expect anyone to save you. Except for me, no one can detoxify the poison. When I leave the blood flame divine country, or when the time is right, I'll detoxify the poison in your body. If you don't want to repeat the same mistake, you should know what to do." Ji Tianqing's words made Duanmu Xiong's body tremble again. Unparalleled fear filled his body and mind, making him feel like dead ashes. He sat on the ground, crying and shouting for a long time before he gradually calmed down. This time, he didn't show any hatred or murderous intent. He stared at the ground and said with a blank face, "Tianxing, it's my fault. I shouldn't have provoked you. I was narrow-minded and vengeful. I treated you as my rival in love, so I tried every possible way to deal with you. It's ridiculous that my love for Ning Xiyuan was one-sided. She treated me like dirt and only had you in her eyes. I hate that I was too stupid. I didn't know how strong you were and I shouldn't have played tricks in front of you. After tonight, I won't be your enemy anymore. I will leave Tianxue County and return to the capital to treat my injuries. I won't show my face again. I understand that my life is in your hands. Therefore, I won't tell Grandpa Monarch. Otherwise, before Grandpa Monarch can kill you, I'll die first, right?" After hearing his words, Ji Tianxing nodded and said with a smile, "You're a promising child. I hope you'll keep your words and actions and stop asking for trouble. Okay, this matter ends here. You can scram." Ji Tianxing waved his hand dispiritedly, indicating Duanmu Xiong to leave. Duanmu Xiong endured the pain and got up with difficulty. He staggered and left. Although the mysterious poison had been hidden and wouldn't act up for the time being. The injuries to his internal organs and blood vessels had already formed and the pain was still there. Especially when his tool had disappeared and only a bloody hole was left. The blow to his spirit was comparable to castrating him. Until he left the Maple Forest Manor, Duanmu Xiong's expression was wooden and his eyes were dim and lifeless. He was like a walking corpse. 100 breaths later, Ji Tianxing also left quietly. When he returned to the Ning Manor, it was already midnight. What surprised him was that the bedroom was filled with boxes of gifts of various sizes. There were a total of 50 to 60 gold and purple gift boxes and chests. Ji Tianxing summoned the guard and asked what was going on. The guard answered respectfully, "Young master, this was sent by eldest miss and the patriarch. They said it was a small gift to express their gratitude. The patriarch also said that he couldn't repay your kindness and this small gift is just a token of his sincerity. If you don't accept it, the patriarch will send someone to deliver it again tomorrow." Ji Tianxing knew immediately that Ning Xiyuan must have told Ning Qingang about the pill that cured Heavenly Slayer. Ning Qingang must have been moved to tears when he learned that Heavenly Slayer could be cured and the Ning clan disciples no longer needed to suffer. It was natural to send gifts to express gratitude. Ji Tianxing casually opened a few gift boxes and saw luxurious and exquisite robes, jade crowns, accessories, and so on. He opened a few more boxes and saw that they were filled with divine crystals, monarch-level divine pills, and treasures. After scanning it with his soul consciousness, he had a rough estimate of the price. It was at least 3 billion. Chapter 2957. The Ning father and daughter were truly extravagant. A single gift was worth several billion. Moreover, they were very considerate and thoughtful. From food and clothing to cultivation necessities, everything was prepared. Of course. Compared to the change and future that Ji Tianxing had brought to the Ning family, that gift was indeed nothing. Since Ning Qingang insisted on giving it, he naturally had to accept it. Since he had nothing to do, he entered the secret chamber to meditate and cultivate. Next, he only needed to wait for the batch of heavenly god-grade equipment to be sold. Once he received the huge sum of 10 billion, he would leave the Ning residence. Time passed very quickly. Unknowingly, it was already noon of the next day. Ji Tianxing was cultivating when the guard outside the secret chamber suddenly reported that someone had delivered a secret letter. Thus, he stopped cultivating and took the letter. When he opened it, he found that it was from left emissary Jean. The contents of the letter were similar to the previous message. The Blood Blade sect had destroyed 3 more branches of the Blood Sword sect, killing many disciples and deacons and seizing a large amount of wealth and resources. Left emissary Jin said that Ji Tianqing had killed the left protector and 2 elders of the Blood Sword sect, causing the Blood Sword sect to be weak. This allowed the Blood Blade sect's plan to be carried out smoothly, continuously destroying one Blood Sword sect branch after another. Based on the current situation, the Blood Sword sect did not have enough experts to take care of the various branches. With the Blood Blade sect creating a diversion, they would definitely be able to expand their gains. If the Blood Sword sect lost half of their branches, they would have to withdraw their defensive forces. At that time, they would not be able to deal with Ji Tianqing. Left emissary Jin reminded Ji Tianqing that he could prepare to leave the Heavenly Snow County. Soon, he would be able to follow the elites of the Blood Blade sect into the Blood Sword sect's base. After reading the secret letter, Ji Tianqing casually crushed the jade slip into pieces. In fact, he already had a plan in mind even without left emissary Jin's reminder. Evening. Ning Xiyuan once again came to the Azure Pine courtyard to meet with Ji Tianqing. This time, she came openly. She did not hide herself, nor did she try to avoid arousing suspicion. After all, Ning Qingang had just dealt with the rumor mongering. Even if someone saw Ning Xiyuan and Ji Tianqing interacting, they didn't dare to talk about it. Ning Xiyuan's complexion was quite good, and his eyes were brighter. This caused her appearance and temperament to become even more beautiful and noble. Ji Tianqing looked at her and nodded slightly. It seems that you have taken the medicine and the secret of cultivation on time. The effect is very good. Ning Xiyuan hurriedly nodded his head in agreement. Full of joy, he said, how can I not listen to the advice of a godly doctor like you? Moreover, I also want to finish off Heavenly Casualty earlier and break through to the Divine Lord realm as soon as possible. After discussing this matter, Ning Xiyuan frowned slightly and said, Duanmu disappeared for a few days, and we don't know where he went. This morning, he sent someone to deliver a letter to the manor and left without saying goodbye. Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and asked knowingly, oh. His infatuation with you hasn't changed. Why would he leave without saying goodbye for no reason? Ning Xiyuan was also puzzled. I was just about to ask you. Did you teach him a lesson? He's not someone who retreats in the face of difficulties. If he hadn't suffered a serious blow, he would definitely have stayed in the Ning family for a long time. Ji Tianqing asked calmly, I taught him a lesson. How is that possible? That's strange. Ning Xiyuan was even more puzzled. He frowned and murmured, if you didn't teach him a lesson, then why did he say in the letter that he had come to his senses and wouldn't bother me anymore? Also, he gave us his blessings. At the end, Ning Xiyuan lowered her head bashfully, and her voice was as soft as a mosquito's. Ji Tianqing pretended not to hear and said indifferently, perhaps he realized that you really have no feelings for him. No matter how much he pestered you, it was useless. Thus, he gave up and let go. Ning Xiyuan nodded. Amen, I hope so. If he could understand and retreat in the face of difficulties, that would be the best. After all, Auntie loves him dearly and often spoils him. If our relationship with him is strained, Auntie will be stuck in the middle and be in a difficult position. Then, she pleaded with Ji Tianqing sincerely, young Master Tianqing, I know that Crown Prince Duanmu is hedonistic and childish. He has offended you before. But please, for the sake of the Ning family, bear with him and don't bicker with him. If he really offended you, just give him a small punishment. Don't make him your enemy. Regarding this matter, the Ning family owes you another favor, okay? Ji Tianqing said calmly, don't worry. He won't offend me again. How intelligent was Ning Xiyuan? Just this one sentence was enough to tell that something was amiss. She was even more certain that Ji Tianqing had taught Duanmu Xiong a lesson. But if Ji Tianqing didn't say anything, she wouldn't pursue the matter. She just bowed and said sincerely, thank you for your magnanimity, young Master Tianqing. The Ning family will remember this favor. Let's not talk about this anymore, Ji Tianqing waved his hand and asked, "Ask your father when we can get the money." This. Ning Xiyuan hesitated and asked, "Young Master Tianqing, do you plan to leave after getting the money?" Ji Tianqing didn't hide it and nodded. If your future achievements are high enough, perhaps you will meet him again. A faint smile flashed in Ning Xiyuan's eyes as he muttered to himself, "There's no need to wait for 10 years. We'll meet again in a month." Ning Qinggang glanced sideways at her. Seeing her expectant and emotional eyes, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He knew in his heart that his daughter and young Master Tianqing wouldn't have a happy ending. However, as a father, it was fine if he didn't support his daughter, but how could he pour cold water on her? Furthermore, there was a trace of expectation in his heart. He hoped that a miracle would happen. If his daughter's wish was fulfilled, he would have no regrets in this life. After leaving the Tianxue County, Ji Tianqing summoned the Black Dragon. The Black Dragon carried him south. He sat cross-legged on the dragon's back and silently cultivated. The sun rose and the moon set. Day and night alternated. 5 days passed quickly. The Black Dragon left the Tianxue County and entered the Beiyuan County. This county's territory was more vast, and there were more fertile plains. The mountains and rivers were also more beautiful. Naturally, this county had more people and more experts and geniuses than the Tianxue County and the Tianfeng County. Even the number of merchants, trade, and sects had increased significantly. On this night, Ji Tianqing received another message from left emissary Jin. "Young Master Tianqing, I heard that you have left the Tianxue County and are heading south. If I'm not wrong, you should be in the Beiyuan County. Coincidentally, our sect's elites will arrive in 3 days and destroy the Blood Sword sect's branch. I hope that young Master Tianqing can go and meet with our sect's 4th elder and give some pointers to our sect's disciples." It wasn't hard for Ji Tianqing to guess left emissary Jin's thoughts. First, it had been half a month since the two sides agreed to cooperate. It had always been the Blood Sword sect taking action and Ji Tianqing doing nothing. The Blood Sword sect was also worried about Ji Tianqing's sincerity in cooperating. Second, left emissary Jin wanted to let Ji Tianqing see the strength of the Blood Sword sect's disciples and their combat ability. This way, he wouldn't underestimate the Blood Sword sect. As for the third reason, he probably wanted Ji Tianqing to have more contact with the Blood Sword sect. After familiarizing himself with them, it would be easier to get closer to them. Only in the future could he rope in Ji Tianqing to join the Blood Sword sect. Ji Tianqing clearly saw through these thoughts. Without thinking, he sent a message back to left emissary Jin. It was just a short sentence. "Since left emissary Jin has invited me, then I will respectfully accept." Not long after, left emissary Jin sent a message back, telling him the location of the meeting in the secret signal. Ji Tianqing could hear that left emissary Jin's tone was filled with joy. He put away the jade strip and stopped contacting left emissary Jin. The Blood Sword sect's branch guarding the Beiyuan County is clearly outside the Beiyuan city. The meeting place isn't in the Beiyuan city. Instead, it's in a remote town hidden in the mountains 100,000 miles away. The Blood Sword sect's actions are indeed cautious. Ji Tianqing muttered to himself and got Black Dragon to speed up. Soon, 3 days had passed. On this evening, the setting sun was as red as blood. Black Dragon flew to the east of the Beiyuan city, a mountain range 100,000 miles away. When they were still a few thousand miles away from the remote town, Ji Tianqing put Black Dragon into the Divine Pagoda. He used the Armillary Heaven's secret technique to merge with the world and quietly rushed to the town. Along the way, he discovered a few scattered heavenly gods in the mountains around the town. They were all disguised as farmers gathering herbs and hunting beasts, moving between the mountains and rivers. In truth, those 7th-level heavenly gods were all spies and informants of the Blood Sword sect. Ji Tianqing hid his aura and was not discovered by anyone. Not long after, he arrived at the town surrounded by mountains. He stood in the clouds and looked down at the town that was a dozen miles wide. This town was called Creek Town and was located in a valley surrounded by mountains. It was quiet and peaceful. There were only 1,000 or so families in the town. Most of them made a living by gathering herbs and hunting beasts. 3 clear rivers that originated from the surrounding mountains flowed through the town. The buildings in the town were also simple and ordinary. Only a few palaces were slightly more imposing. Ji Tianqing scanned the town with his spiritual sense and did not find anything unusual. Finally, his gaze landed on the east of the town, on the old grayish-white palace. That was the place where he met the Blood Sword sect. On the surface, it looked deserted. In truth, there were more than a dozen heavenly gods hiding in the dark. Chapter 2959. The people from Blood Blade sect had yet to arrive. Ji Tianqing stood in the sky and waited quietly. An hour later, the curtain of night fell. At this moment, a black shadow flew over from the distant mountains and approached Creek Town silently. The hazy black shadow was shaped like a black cloud and was a flying divine artifact. It was rather hidden in the dark and was not easy to be discovered. When it reached the sky above Creek Town, the black cloud stopped for a moment. It probably communicated with the spies in the old palace and confirmed that the situation was normal before it landed in the palace. The black cloud entered the palace. More than 60 figures immediately appeared. The leader was a hunchbacked old man with white hair and a white beard. He was dressed in a blood-red robe. He was a mid-level god monarch and had the strength of a 5th heaven realm expert. The other 60 people were dressed in black and wore skull masks with the symbol of Blood Blade embroidered on their chests. They were all elite disciples of Blood Blade sect and had the strength of 7th heaven god realm and above. Everyone stayed in the palace and remained silent and solemn. No one made any noise and no one walked around casually. It was obvious that they were well trained. Therefore, Ji Tianqing quietly flew into the town and landed in the old palace. There was a divine array set up both inside and outside the palace. It could protect the palace and also prevent divine sense from probing. At this moment, the hunchbacked old man in a blood-red robe was questioning the leader of the scouts who guarded the palace. Jiang Wu, are there any abnormalities around Creek Town? The leader of the scouts was called Jiang Wu. He was a skinny young man in leather armor. He bowed respectfully and answered, reporting to 4th Elder, this subordinate and a dozen brothers have been monitoring for 5 days and have not found any abnormalities. Our sect is very cautious in our actions, and we deliberately set up a deceptive formation to create a diversion. Blood Blade sect will definitely not expect our target to be here. 4th Elder nodded slightly and asked, has the young master that left envoy Jean mentioned arrived? Jiang Wu shook his head and answered truthfully, no. Moreover, the brothers guarding outside the town have not seen any traces of him. 4th Elder nodded and said, in that case, that kid has not arrived yet. Let's hope that he is fast enough and can appear within 4 hours. If he exceeds this time limit, our operation will be delayed. Jiang Wu revealed a confident smile and said arrogantly, even if that kid doesn't come, it doesn't matter. With 4th Elder personally taking action, as well as more than 60 senior and junior brothers, flattening the Northern Plains branch will naturally be an easy task. The 4th Elder stroked his white beard and nodded with a smile, of course. When Left Emissary Jean sent that kid to join us, he didn't expect him to help us. Left Emissary Jean just wants that kid to watch the battle and see the strength of our Blood Blade sect. Jiang Wu grinned coldly and said, 4th Elder, there's something I can't figure out. With our sect's strength and methods, defeating the Blood Sword sect isn't difficult. Even if we want to find helpers, only the top sects and forces are qualified to cooperate with us. What was left emissary Jean thinking? The collaborator he found for our sect is actually a nameless brat. The fourth elder pretended to be dignified and said, Jiang Wu, Envoy Jean has his own reasons for doing things. When is it your turn to comment? Although that brat is nameless, he has killed a few divine monarchs and forced left emissary Jean to retreat with one move. He cannot be underestimated. Jiang Wu pretended to be terrified and admitted his mistake. However, he didn't think much of this matter and muttered with a mocking tone, that brat did kill a few divine monarchs. However, I don't believe that he forced left emissary Jean to retreat with one move. To be able to defeat left emissary Jean, he must be a high divine monarch. But how can there be such a young high divine monarch in this world? Could it be that left emissary Jean is cooperating with him and putting on a show? Many Blood Blade sect disciples nodded inwardly and agreed with Jiang Wu's words. Even the fourth elder didn't reprimand them. He only said indifferently, enough, this matter isn't something you should care about. It's fine if you think about it, but remember that trouble comes from the mouth. If left emissary Jean hears this, even I won't be able to protect you. Jiang Wu, the scouts, and many of the elite disciples all smiled knowingly. Without a doubt, these disciples and scouts in the palace were the fourth elder's trusted subordinates. The crowd no longer discussed Ji Tianqing and left emissary Jean. Instead, they discussed how to divide the wealth and resources after tonight's destruction of the Northern Plains branch. Although most of the wealth and resources had to be handed over to the sect, they didn't work hard. Of course, they wouldn't hand over everything. They would keep some treasures for themselves. This was a secret that everyone had a tacit understanding about, and no one would reveal it. The elders, the left and right emissaries, and the sect master of the Blood Blade sect couldn't punish the disciples for this. If they wanted the disciples to unite and be loyal to the sect, they had to give up some of the benefits. Just as the crowd was discussing fervently, a cold and indifferent voice suddenly resounded in the hall. Arrogant soldiers are bound to lose. These 4 words contained a powerful divine power that made everyone's divine souls tremble in fear. In an instant, the entire hall became so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Everyone was vigilant and looked around with sharp eyes. The fourth elder was the first to see a young man in a white robe standing on the steps in the north of the hall. This person was handsome and had a noble and dignified temperament. He was filled with a mysterious aura. He looked at the crowd expressionlessly with cold eyes. The fourth elder, Jiang Wu, and more than 60 elite disciples all stared at him. The disciples were in an uproar. They all took out their weapons and stared at the white-robed young man with murderous intent. A trace of fear flashed in Jiang Wu's eyes. He asked in a deep voice, "Who are you? Why are you here? Do you want to die?" The white-robed young man didn't say anything. He raised his right hand and grabbed at Jiang Wu from 100 steps away. A golden dragon claw appeared out of nowhere and grabbed Jiang Wu. Jiang Wu didn't have time to dodge or resist. He was crushed by the dragon claw. After a series of crackling sounds, he turned into a pile of meat paste and fell to the ground. Even his godhood was crushed and mixed with his flesh and blood. The scout leader, the 9th-level celestial deity realm Jiang Wu, was crushed to death by the white-robed youth in public just like that. From the beginning to the end, Jiang Wu didn't even let out a scream. This scene caused everyone to widen their eyes in shock. Their hearts were filled with shock and anger. The white-robed young man looked as if he had crushed an ant. He still looked indifferent and said coldly, "The internal strife of the Blood Blade sect has nothing to do with me. However, I hate such scoundrels who sow discord and flatter others, so I killed them casually. If anyone is unhappy, you can complain to your sect master." When he said that, he looked sharply at the fourth elder. His meaning couldn't be more obvious. The fourth elder's body stiffened. He pointed at him with a trembling finger and said, You're Tianqing. Without a doubt, the white-robed young man was Ji Tianqing. He frowned slightly and said expressionlessly, "Since it's your first offense, I'll spare your life. If you call me by my name again, I'll kill you." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.